Okay, Chef Todd here. Excited about bringing you this content of this YouTube video today. It's all Icast. Icast Orlando 2024. The biggest fishing show in the world. And some amazing plastic this year. Hooks, rods, reels. I'm trying to bring it to you in a YouTube video. I'm sharing the stage today with Tackle Warehouse. And I hope you appreciate this and pay attention and just look at the content. We got great lures, great stuff. I would kill to be there. I would kill to be at Icast. Folks at home, folks at home. I'll be there in a year or so.
One that we've been pretty pumped about. A few of us in the office definitely want to buy one and try it out this year. But man, big 120 millimeter handle, all aluminum construction. So for a swim bait reel, if you're looking for a new swim bait reel,
Bait.
Checking that one out.
The goat.
What else we got here? Over in Spro, there's a new Jason Christie reel.
Oh, new Jason Christie reel.
And this is the first time I actually got to see one and put one in my hand. But man, look at that giant carbon handle on it, and then these big knobs on there. All matte black construction, all flat matte black. This is a sharp looking reel that Jason Christie. I think this is a little bit more expensive, a little bit more refined than the first one he did. But in the hand, feels solid. It has a clicker on the drag, but it feels like it has a ton of power, and feels like a solid reel. It's like I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I know that we're gonna go over there.
Icast best of show.
Get the rundown from Jason Christie himself.
Showroom
on those reels. Oh, look at that! This is a fully gold reel.
I like that.
I know the casting sample that we got for this was silver. I don't know if this is a special edition or what they're doing with it though. But
Pimpin'.
It looks like it came out of a Star Wars movie, man. I know we don't have this one up for pre-order, if this is a special edition or what they're doing with that, but that thing is cool looking. What else we got? Oh, from Lubes. This one, the new Custom Pro. Another one, gold, but not as gold as that last one.
Lubes make a good reel.
Some new brake system on here. That there's I think there's a centrifugal and a magnetic, but they got some new technology in it to where you can just cast it and you don't even have to thumb the spool, and it'll eliminates all the backlash for you. So really cool new reel. I haven't got the rundown on that one either, but would love to see the demo of it, how that thing works.
All right.
Let's see.
I began with goosebumps in that room.
And I think it's going to wrap up. Yeah. And just kind of keep irritating until you get one of them just aggravated enough to strike this thing.
Jackal
really
Flutter
cool.
Spoon.
With a dress, treble, awesome, ready to go, right out the pack.
And
It's got that nice Teflon finish. And yeah, like you said, a swivel on the front. You don't have to do anything other than tie this thing on.
Yeah.
It's ready to go.
And great little 3D eyes on there.
Yeah.
Really nice looking spoon. Not just a regular old plain spoon.
Yeah, all right. That's enough from Jackal. Let's get out of here.
All right, let's go. All right.
Yo, we're in the Abu Garcia booth. We're coming to check out some brand new reels. Let's follow us.
Hey, get out of the way.
Hey,
Get out of the way.
let's get out of the way.
What's up, Tackle Warehouse fans? Jake here with this week's episode of What's New at Tackle Warehouse, and today is the very first day of Icast. So the fishing industry is releasing tons of new stuff across all the brands, all the exciting new gears coming out for the very next year, and we have a pile of it to show you today. So we got a bunch of new stuff that some of our favorite vendors have sent us and given us a couple early access samples of, so we can show you guys today. So the show's going on today. We're gonna have tons of coverage from tons of different brands, We're going to do a bunch of different types of coverage. You want to head over to the website, keep refreshing, check out all the new products and all the video coverage that will be happening today. But let's get into some of these products here. We're gonna be here for a little while. This isn't going to be a 10-minute lunch break episode. We're going to be here for quite some time, so you might want to sit back, grab yourself a cold drink, and relax while we go over all this new gear. First one up from ARC. This is the new series of rods from ARC. This is the Wes Logan signature series of rods. And the first thing I noticed immediately when I grabbed this rod is how crazy light this thing is and how comfortable and balanced it is as well. That's another important overlooked feature of most rods. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit heavy or a little bit light. If it's not balanced, it just doesn't feel right. And this one is definitely feels great in the hand. So with the blank, it's a 40-ton graphite blank. So that's where they're really cutting down a lot of that weight. And this thing is super strong and super sensitive, really durable. And they have these custom ARC, I think, nano-pressed guides on here. And the guide inserts are crazy, crazy thin. So that's where they're reducing a lot of additional weight on this series as well. Down here on the reel seat, there's a cork handle, but one thing I did want to mention is the cork, they left it a little bit more robust than some of the other rods on the market. It feels really comfortable in your hand, but it's not, they're not just shaving it down and giving you a little skinny handle on there. It's got a nice handle. And then that custom reel seat, it really maximizes all that blank exposure. Nice kind of carbon and aluminum reel seat nut up here on the top. Just an awesome series of rods. There's a ton of different models throughout the lineup, but if you're gonna get one, this would be the one you wanna get. It's a 7.3 mag medium heavy, and on the back of it, it says literally anything. So if you're only gonna get one, that's the one you wanna get. And Texas style keeper, stoked. Wes Logan put the right kind of keeper on there. It's great for almost all applications. All right, next up from Bates. We got a couple of really exciting reels, and this is probably the one that I'm most pumped about throughout this whole Icast actually, is this new GOAT 200 swim bait reel. Now, if you don't know anything about Bates, these Bates reels, they're made in America, and they're so strong and so robust. It's really cool what they're doing over there. So each of these reels starts off from a solid block of, I believe it's 6061 T6 bar stock aluminum. So every single one of these starts off as a solid block of aluminum, and they have these 9-axis CNC machines that make these reels. So the tolerances on these things are super, super tight, and they're just built like an absolute tank. They really remind me of some of like my Avid Ocean reels. You know, they're just built, they're all metal, they're gonna last you a lifetime, and they're built to perform, and they're built to last. No cheap parts on these things. So this new GOAT 200, really deep spool on here. It's rated for 200 yards of 12 pound. So, I mean, you're gonna get plenty of like 17, 20 pound, 22 pound, you know, those bigger lines if you're running swim baits, which is what this reel is designed for. Large handle on here, 120 millimeter handle with these oversized knobs. So everything's cut out on here, but tons of cranking power. And that's another thing I want to talk about is their drag system. So they have nothing I've never heard about before is a titanium and stainless steel drag system, and you can feel it once you start clicking this thing down and really putting drag tension on it. It doesn't feel like a normal drag where you're cranking it down with carbon fiber washers. And this thing, I don't know what the poundage is on it. It's like 18, 20, something like that, but it's got a ton of power. So if you're looking for a new swim bait reel, you know, that's built to handle, to go into the elements. It's got anodized, corrosion resistant finish on the outside, on the handle, on all the parts, so you can throw this thing in the salt water as well. So if you're looking for a reel that can handle big fish and those heavy lines and bigger baits, that's the one that you want to check out. The next one they built for the complete opposite end of the spectrum. This is the Hundo LTS, and I mean, putting it in your hand, it's crazy how light it is for an all aluminum, you know, rock solidly built reels. But they built this one for bait finesse fishing. As you can see, that spool on there, crazy, you know, shallow, and it's aluminum, but every single little bit of it that you can drill out is drill out. So it does have that wiffled finish. And I can't express, you know, you can't feel it through the lens, but how crazy smooth this thing is and just how buttery the spool feels when you spin it. So this is going to be built for your 4, 5, 6 pound test. If you're doing a lot of bait finesse fishing, another real option out there on the market for you. They got this brake system right here on the side, super easy to dial, but it's tucked in there out of the way that you're not going to palm it and twist the brake and get your reel out of sync. It does have the audible clicker on the drag, but man, just a beautiful reel, really built for the bait finesse fishing, another option for you. And they make them both in the left and the right hand. So great options for us lefties out there. All right, next up from Berkley. We got a bunch of cool stuff from Berkley. This first one here is the Clatter Craw. Now, I first saw this thing, I just looked right at it, didn't pay too close of attention till we're about to film this, and I noticed some features I didn't really pick up at first. So this is a pre-rigged craw bait. It comes in a pack just like this. It's got a couple in there. And then what's cool about this is, you can see the details on here. Highly realistic craw bait. It's got the side legs, the arms. It's got a nice hook on there, but it's got a fluorocarbon weed guard. So it goes over there. It tucks itself out of the way, but it's not as obtrusive as some of those fiber weed guards. The lead head is actually molded just like a crawtail. So just maintaining that realistic look throughout the entire section of the bait. But one thing I noticed is probably the most important part is these claws. So they have the little flanges on them, but embedded into the claws are little rattles. So I don't know if you can hear them on there, but it rattles and it makes a really cool noise and just something different. You're not having to insert a rattle into the body. They're in the claws, and with those flanges, the claws are gonna be flapping anyway, so it's gonna be moving those rattles and making more noise than you would if you just had one rattle in the body of the bait. I'm pretty stoked to try this out, and it's Berkley. It's made out of power bait, so it's got the smell and everything you already want in it, and some amazing colors. The next thing we got is the new unrigged coal shad. So the coal shad came out last year. I believe it was an early launch because guys were using it in the Classic and having great success with it, so they had to launch it early. But we got the coal shad body with that honeycomb design down the back end of it, so it moves a ton of water. They've got great colors, and they've got these photorealistic colors as well. But now, an unrigged option. So a nice spot up here to thread your screw lock on there, or if you want to run it on a jig head, you can do that. But this is going to be the option that I really prefer to gravitate towards because, even with the treble hook harness on there, there's not many times where I'm not going to throw it by a piece of cover at least a couple times through the day. So if you're in that situation, or if you exclusively want to throw it through brush, weeds, grass, things like that, this is going to be the great option for you. So it's got that nice wide pocket on here in the belly, and then a slot on the top to just aid and remove some of that plastic so that your screw lock swim bait style hook will get great hook penetration and give you a fully weedless profile. So just expanding on this lineup, if you want one with a treble hook and more open water and you're fishing mid-water column, that's great. It's really hard for those fish to come up and nip at that thing and not get at least a hook point in them. But this option, the unrigged option, gives you a completely weedless model that you can run. You can run it weighted, unweighted, whatever you like. Run it different areas of the water column, but run it through cover. Run it through docks, run it through grass, brush, laydowns, anything like that. That's going to be the one you want so you don't get snagged up. Another one from Berkley, kind of in the swim bait category, really excels in some of those spotted bass fisheries. As you see, sometimes in May, late spring, early summer, these baits really tend to shine. So this is the Berkley Magic Swimmer. So previously we've had these, and they've really been geared towards saltwater. But as bass anglers, we've been making do with kind of the colors that we got. But Berkley's gone ahead and decided to release this bait in a freshwater version that has the colors and the sizes that we really want for freshwater fishing. So I believe there's 3 sizes and about 10 or 12 colors, but they're the sizes and the colors that we need for bass fishing. So we're not trying to, get a middle-sized sardine or mackerel color and make it work for a gizzard shad or threadfin shad presentation. So they've got the colors that we need in the sizes that we want for bass fishing now, the Magic Swimmer Freshwater. From Dirty Jigs, kind of a refresher on a jig. So this is the JT Kenny Grass Wizard jig. Now the JT Kenny Grass Wizard jig was previously under the Nichols lineup. Brooks, the owner of both the companies, he brought that jig over to the Dirty Jigs family and gave it the full Dirty Jigs treatment. So we know that Dirty Jigs makes some of the best jigs out there on the market. So now, the JT Kinney Grass Wizard jig, phenomenal grass jig. He probably flips more grass in a year than I'll ever get to in a lifetime. And so this jig, it's got that nice arrowhead shape. It really cuts in and out of the grass super efficiently. But now, since it's under the Dirty Jig family, it's got the multicolored heads, that really nice powder coating on them, and then a bunch of the great Dirty Jigs colors and the phenomenal skirts. They probably make some of the best jig colors out there on the market. There's even different colors in the bristles on the weed guard. A great hook on there, but it still has that nice keeper that is made to run a toothpick through the middle that really locks that trailer in place. So now, if you're a big fan of the JT's Grass Wizard jig from Nichols, and we're missing it, thought it went away, it's back, but it's now under the Dirty Jigs brand. Okay, bunch of new stuff from Gambler. So our buddy Val over at Gambler's got some really cool stuff this year. This first one here is his hover minnow. So he's got it in 2 sizes. It's a 4-inch and a 3-inch. But these are hollow body minnows. So it's really, really cool. So they're built just like a hollow body swim bait. So fully hollow, and they have that hollow body look to them, which is phenomenal. We all know how much bass love hollow bodies, and the colors that you can get on these things, with those clear bodies, really take on the color of the water and just have those nice little accents on them and really capture what a bait fish looks like in each body of water. With these little guys, since they are hollow bodies, you run these on your jig heads, on the hover style hooks, whatever you want. But since there's a little bit of air trapped inside there, it's really going to slow the descent down and really get these things to kind of hang out in the strike zone a little bit more than some of the plastics that are fully solid plastics. So there's a 3-inch and a 4-inch size, but not just limited to that style of fishing. I'm super pumped to throw these on underspins. The guys in the office want to throw them on scroungers here this summer. A bunch of cool stuff you can do with them. Throw them on a drop shot. No reason why you can't nose hook that thing and catch some fish. But just great little minnow baits there by Gambler. The next one up is he's got a couple options from in their new Ninja Buzzbait. So there's a Ninja Buzzbait and Ninja Buzzbait frame. So you can get the full buzzbait, but if you just want the frame, you can buy just the frame and add whatever you want to it. Swim jig, hook, put one of his the cane toads or easy swimmers on there, and you can make your own custom profile, whatever kind of bait, and really catch a whole bunch of fish on them. This one right here, the Ninja Buzzbait. So as you can see, it's got a nice blade up on the top, but then behind it, it's got one of their the blades from the Ninja spinnerbait. So it's kind of a unique, it's kind of like a axe style blade. It's not like a willow blade or a Colorado blade. And that's really gonna do is just, not only is it gonna add flash, but it's gonna help keep this blade clear and kind of cut some of that grass away as it's going through the grass and just kind of pull some of that stuff off the frame. But down on the bottom, it is swinging. So there is a split ring on it and there's a free swinging swim jig on the bottom. What's cool about that is that swim jig is going to be able to kind of, slip through and navigate through cover. So if you want to throw this in around brush and trees and stuff like that, it'll kind of move its way around that stuff and not get hung up as much if you like to throw your buzzbait around a lot of cover. And then since it's able to move around whatever kind of trailer you got on there, it'll really kick this thing around and get a ton of action. So new great buzzbait there from Gambler. Make sure you check them out. All right, next up, we're gonna go into Lew's. Now, we got a bunch of stuff from Lew's this year. So we'll start off with, actually this one right here is what we're gonna start off with. So the new American Hero series. So new American Hero reel, you can get the American Hero rods, or you can get the combo. And I was checking them out. If you want just one, you want a combo, you want to be, make shopping simple, they got a 7-foot medium heavy combo for you. And if you buy the combo, it's going to save you, I believe, 20 or 25 bucks versus buying them separate. But if you want to buy them separately, we got the reels, graphite frame and side plates, super lightweight, aluminum spool, really smooth reels, a value-packed reel, super smooth, tons of features for a low price, nice magnetic brake system on the side, super easy to adjust and super quick. So the rod's nice. I think it's IM6 carbon fiber blank on these. And then the guides, they have the stainless steel guides with the stainless inserts. So if you're one to, you really put a hurting on your rods and you're throwing them in the back of the truck and, laying them on the bank and stuff, these are gonna hold up a lot better than some of the guides with the inserts in them. But you can get the reel or the rod or the combo. Got all the options for you. The next rod here is the LFS series. And we got a whole tube of rods, and it was from Lew's and the mock stuff. And when I pulled them out, this is the first one that I personally gravitated towards. I was like, what is this one? I wanted to find out more about it. And grabbing it, this is an awesome, awesome rod. So high modulus graphite blanks. They have Fuji guides and O-ring inserts on here. Really, really lightweight. And I mean, I couldn't stress about, how lightweight they feel and how comfortable they are. And with those Lew's custom reel seats where they really maximize that exposure on the back, they're crazy sensitive. But what I love about this rod from Lew's is that they went to, kind of an old school classic look on them, with that cork finish and the blue wraps on here and kind of a subtle blue finish on the first foot or so of the rod, and then to like a matte gray finish. But just a classic looking rod, nothing too crazy, and it feels phenomenal. They got just about everything in this lineup, including, jerkbait rods, flipping sticks, whatever you want. Pretty much got it all minus, a big giant swim bait rod and like a 10XD cranking rod. But there's plenty of other rods for that. But everything else, they got you covered with this lineup. And then we got the new TP2 series. So these ones come in at $100. And again, another phenomenal series of rods from Lew's. They have the HM45 graphite blanks on these. So again, these ones are lightweight as well. So super comfortable, more blacked out finish. And on these ones, they have kind of the wind dry tack grips on them. So if you've ever checked these out from Lew's, they're crazy comfortable. I've always liked this wind style grip versus like an EVA. They grip to your hand really, really well. And then also if you're sweaty or if it's raining, any kind of wet conditions, or if you're just catching fish and making a mess and your hands are wet, these grip on super, super well. So again, a bunch of great series of rods from Lew's. They really knocked it out of the park this year on the rods. Now reels. The first reel up we got is the new Speed Spool. So this one is a graphite frame and body, aluminum spool. They do have the little speed knot system in there on the spool, and then a 10 bearing system on this one. So what's great about this reel is it's super, super smooth. And these come in at $100. And I've always been a big fan, and I've recommended these a lot to people when I used to run the retail store. They're really hard to beat. The Lew's Speed Spools for $100. It's one of the most feature-packed reels on the market for $100. And they've changed up their grips on them. I like these new grips a lot. They're really comfortable. They fit on your hand a lot better. They've changed up their brake system on these and kind of tucked them in here on the bottom and kind of have part of that side plate over them. So that really just protects them, makes it a little easier to work with, and it just makes it more smooth and comfortable, easier to palm. And one thing I did want to note is they have some new gear ratios in these ones, and they're bringing it back. They're bringing some of the 5s back, which I'm super, super pumped about. So not a lot of companies make those 5-to-1 or 5 point something to 1 gear ratios anymore. So they're bringing that back in right and left for us lefty guys, which is, I think, a great option for any of your deep cranks out there. I've always been a fan of having a 5-to-1 for those 6XD, 8XD, 10XD style baits. Having a low gear ratio reel is phenomenal. It makes your life way easier. Then the next one here is the Custom Pro. Now, this one going up in price point, I believe this one comes in at $180. And you're just getting a bunch more with these reels. But this is one of Lew's first reels they've ever done with a 30mm spool. As you can see, it's super compact. So compared to the regular Speed Spool, I mean, it's slimmed down and really palmable, fits in your hand, and it's gonna be great for tons of applications. And you're getting a bunch more features. They got like the speed keeper on there. They got the speed dial where you can change your line size. Again, another 10 bearing system, but with that aluminum frame and then the graphite side plates on there, it's a super strong and robust reel you can do a ton of different stuff with. And they got their new Paramag brake system. So a new technology that Lew's is rolling out this year. And in addition to that, got their P2 double supported pinion gear on the inside, so it keeps everything in line. Tons of cranking power the gears don't bind up when you have this thing under heavy load, so you can flip into heavy cover and not worry about the reel seizing up when you're trying to pull big fish out of cover. Now the next one is another one that I'm pumped about, the new Custom Pro. And when I pulled this thing out of the box and grabbed it, I was immediately like, whoa, this reel is super light. It only comes in at 5.6 ounces. So like the Custom Pro has aluminum frame, but this one actually has carbon fiber side plates. And I think that's where they really shaved that extra ounce or ounce and a half off of this reel, is those carbon fiber side plates, because it's crazy light in the hand. This would be so nice to fish all day. There's so much comfortable, more comfortable, lightweight, just, you barely even feel this thing in your hand. Got that really cool gold finish to it. And one of the biggest things about this reel, different from the other ones, they have that same brake that's kind of tucked in the side, but there's a completely different ITB, inertia-driven brake system on the inside. But what they're claiming is with their new brake system, they're really reducing a lot of the backlash, but they're doing it in a way without the use of electronics, batteries, brake shoes, which a lot of the other companies on the market have gone to, electronic systems to really control the speed spool mid-cast so that the reel's kind of doing the work for you, eliminating that backlash. They're doing it with a different system. It'd be really cool to see how it performs and how it works this year, and something I'm definitely gonna keep on the radar. But again, got all the great features, 11 bearing system on this one. So again, super smooth, nice grips on there, tons of cranking power. I believe these all have 22 pounds of drag. So more than you can ever put, more than you would ever need for bass fishing. Speed keeper, the dial on here with the line, just phenomenal reels all around there by Luz. Let's go into Rapala. Actually, excuse me, we're gonna stop there. We're gonna go to Lucky Craft. We had two that almost slipped under the radar there. So a couple new Lucky Craft baits. So we have the new Lightning Pointer 100 DD MGS, and then the Lightning Stacy 110 DD MGS. I know it's a lot. It's a whole lot going on there. But as you see that those front hooks are kind of hanging out on the body, it's because the MG stands for the magnetic system on the inside. So magnetic weight transfer, so they go down to the tail and they slide back. You can feel them when they slide, and then they slide back, slide to the tail for the cast, and then lock back up into the front when you start your retrieve. What's great about these is they're also sinking baits. So you're gonna be able to get these things out there a long way with that magnetic system, but they're weighted heavier than the normal jerk baits. So they're gonna sink and get down to targeting those suspended fish, which everyone's doing now. If you have a boat with sonar on it, with the live scope, some jerk baits just don't get down to the range. If the fish are in 15 feet, there's not many jerk baits that run that deep. And when you start putting those giant bills on them, you start affecting the action that you want out of a jerk bait. With these options, not only do they got phenomenal Lucky Craft colors on them, but they have that proven Stacy bill on there. So you're gonna get great action, but you're gonna be able to get it down to those depths where the fish are hanging out. So a couple new options there from Lucky Craft. Now we'll go into Rapala. So with Rapala Crush City, we got a bunch of new soft plastics. A couple here that we want to point out. The first couple of worms, we got the Pig Stick and then the Janitor. And this one's missing a few out of the pack, so someone's been stealing them out of the office and using them. So they must be good. So a couple new options. The Pig Stick, heavily salted bait, sinks and quivers, and it's got all those ribs on there, and I think those are really gonna catch a lot of water and really get this thing to quiver a lot, which is what you want in a soft stick bait. You wanna get that thing to sink and move a lot and just trigger those finicky fish to bite. Always gotta have one in the arsenal for when the bite is tough. And now the Janitor worm, when you need to clean up out there, the Janitor worm is gonna be one you wanna go with. Got a flat bottom on one side, heavy ribs on the other. But if you noticed on both of them, they have kind of a notch right there in the middle, kind of hard to see, but they've actually molded these to perfectly fit the VMC crossover rings. So those wacky rings, wacky ring style baits, those accessories. So you can put that right on there, and that slot is gonna keep it in place a little bit better than just like a smooth body worm with those wacky ring tubes. So that'll hold it right there in place. This is gonna be a great bait for Nico rigs and chicken rigs and all that stuff where you're putting a nail weight in the head and you want to use a wacky ring, but also a phenomenal shaky head bait. I think those ribs on there are gonna be just enough to get your shaky head hook just through it, but still keep it perfectly weedless. Got some great colors, some great stuff there from Rapala Crush City. The next one is, I don't even know if we need to talk about it, the Mooch Minnow. So people have been asking about this for, since the whole, the beginning of the year started. I don't know, this is probably the bait that's won the most money this year by the Crush City anglers, mainly Jacob Wheeler, Dustin Connell. A bunch of the other Rapala guys have really just put a hurting on the field with the live sonar and that bait right there. And when you check it out, you can see why. I mean, it has the shad profile and that little tail on there, that T tail is just, it's not wide, but it's just enough to get that thing to have some super subtle quivering action. So probably the hottest minnow bait out there on the market right now for live scope fishing. Get them on pre-order while you can, because I know that one's going to be a highly pre-ordered item and you don't want to be at the back of the list. The next one here, the hedgehog. So kind of a small creature style bait. Hedgehog, it's built around, being that hog style creature bait. And what I like about this one though, is it's small and compact. It's not a big creature bait. So it is really small. It's gonna hold your, 3-4-aught hook in there just perfectly. But that smaller streamlined body is gonna be great for, when you're just trying to get bites and you gotta be finessey. Seems like every day we gotta be more and more subtle with our approach. That is gonna be deadly when, the big baits are just not getting bites. And with the extra legs on there, so it's got multiple appendages up here, little side legs, and then just tiny little pieces of appendages on these two pinchers down here on the bottom. And it's even got ribbing on the curly tails themselves. So I think what that's gonna do is help slow down the rate of fall. So with the added appendages, it's just more drag in the water, and it's gonna slow that bait down. And then it's got that nice ribbing that most of the Crush City stuff has to really hold the hook point. I used some of their craws last year, and that does a phenomenal job of just protecting the hook point on a flipping bait. Now we'll get into some hard baits. Actually, the one I'm pretty pumped about myself is the new OG Big Rocco. I love the whole OG line of baits designed by Ott Defoe. And I believe the Rocco came out last year or 2 years ago. And it's a smaller, smaller square bill style bait. But now he's got a bigger option. This one definitely more the size that I was looking for. 2 3/4 inches. I believe it weighs 5/8 of an ounce. But it's that balsa material, so it's completely silent. No rattles in it. And since it's bigger, that bigger piece of balsa is going to hunt and have more buoyancy and deflect and just get a little bit better hunting action. It's got that circuit board bill on there. All these baits that Ott Defoe's helped design are phenomenal crankbaits, and he puts a lot of time into hand carving the original ones, and now available to us. Rapala making them for us, and we can get those baits that are designed by pros like Ott Defoe that just sits in the garage and carves his own baits. The hooks on them, it's got the VMC hybrid short shank trebles that are a nasty treble hook. It's got kind of a medium to wide wobbling action, so a little bit different than than the flat-sided bait. So if you're looking for something that's got a little bit more wobble to it, that's gonna be the one you wanna go to, and a little bit bigger profile. The next one here is the Deep Maverick. If I can get it untangled from the lure stand here and not stick myself in the finger. So the Maverick, they've now got it in a deep running option. So everyone's seen a jerkbait that just gets down there in 7, 8, 9, 10 feet of water. They got you covered with the Deep Maverick. So bigger bill on it, still maintains that action that you want, that the Maverick series is known for. It has a tungsten weight transfer. Took a second till you can feel that thing inside there. It's got 2 tungsten balls in there that really slide down to the tail. The tungsten balls go to the tail and they fly like a bullet, but then they lock in place up there at the front. Phenomenal action. And these hooks are the VMC Redline hooks that are pretty scary sharp. When we did a vlog with them, I believe our camera guy and Corey might have stuck themselves multiple times with these. They have that slit coating on there, so be careful. Don't mess around with those. They will get you. And then last one, the Jowler. All right, so the Jowler topwater bait. Now, this is a 127 size, so this is a big bait. It's got 2 rattles in it, which they call a dual rattle noise or system in there. So it makes a ton of noise with the 2 different rattles on the inside. But then with all that weighting down there in the tail, this thing flies like a bullet. It's got that kind of semi-cupped mouth on there. So when you're walking this bait, you're doing the walk the dog action. Not only is it super easy to walk, but it spits and splashes water all over the place. VMC Redline trebles, and then they got a feathered treble on the rear. phenomenal paint jobs. If you're looking for a topwater bait, schooling fish, this is gonna be the one you want, and you can really reach out there on the cast and get to those fish. Seems like they always pop up, you know, and they're just out of casting range, but with a bait like that, you can fire that thing and get it out there and reach those fish. From Savage Gear, another one that we're pretty pumped about. If you saw our look forward video, you might have already seen this one, but this new soft shine glide. So this one, you're only gonna be able to get this at Tackle Warehouse for a while. So it's a soft glide bait. On the inside, it's got a mesh system to really keep that thing held together. And you know, Mads over at Savage Gear does so much tinkering and testing of baits and really, you know, messes with the internals to really get this thing absolutely perfect. So it's a line through. So your line goes through here and it connects to this, what he calls a modifier and that treble hook. So it comes out. So there's a little piece of like stainless wire that holds that feather and then the treble hook on there and keeps the treble right there in the middle. But then you have a piece that actually locks into an internal harness. So you're not just stabbing a treble hook into the middle of the body, but it's weighted, it's perfectly balanced. From this profile, you can see the fins. The fins are built that way, you know, not by accident, on purpose, so that actually keeps that bait to track and keeps it balanced and keeps it from rolling over. But the action on this thing is insane. It glides left to right. It has a nice glide to it, but you can snap it and get it to turn and do all kinds of crazy stuff. You can reel it fast and get it to chop. But the profile of this bait, I mean, looks just like a big gizzard shad or a big threadfin shad, maybe a blueback herring. We got some really cool colors coming out in this one. And then that soft material, it's just more subtle, looks way more natural than some of the hard baits out there. And that one is definitely gonna catch some fish. So only get them at Tackle Warehouse. Pre-order them right now because there's gonna be a line of people that are lining up to get that one. Now we're gonna go into some Strike King stuff. We've got a pile of Strike King gear to go over. First one, we'll go off with an easy one. Summertime fishing, big worms, always a big hit. Strike King is now adding a 12-inch size to their Zeus worm. So the Zeus worm, you know, 10-inch ribbon tail, I believe they have an 8-inch as well, but just a phenomenal worm. Now they got a 12-inch size. Super stoked. Strike King finally did that, came to the party with the 12-inch worm. This one, the new Wake Shad 2.0. So if you're familiar with this bait, this was a Strike King bait a long, long time ago, and it's been gone and off the market for a long time. And this is gonna ruin some of the eBay market. So people sell these things on eBay for quite a bit of money. I've actually got a couple of these from the old stock from when I first started here about a decade ago in the warehouse. So this is a really cool wake bait. So it's 4 inches long, or it's about 4.5. But that bill on there, this design, it pushes a ton of water. So if you're looking for a wake bait, nice shad profile. I mean, you throw this thing around with that joint on there, it has a great swimming action, but it moves a ton of water. A phenomenal wake bait for the shad spawn, and anytime the fish are up schooling around shallow cover. This next one here it doesn't even have hooks on it. This is the sample that we got. Just like this, the new Hardliner flat-sided crankbait. Now this is gonna be your cold water wintertime crankbait. When you need something that's super subtle, it's gonna run 5 to 7 feet, but that early pre-spawn cold water crankbait, this is gonna be the one you want. Circuit board bill, like I said, runs 5 to 7 feet, but they built this to really mimic those old school balsa style crankbaits that are pretty hard to get now these days. But now they've made it out of resin material, so it's super, super strong. And this thing is it's gonna last a lot longer than some of those old school balsa weights. And they've got an internal fixed weight system on the inside. So it's gonna cast a lot better than some of the old school balsa baits. If you got a bait like this, old school balsa, you know, it would weigh, you know, 3/16 or 1/4 of an ounce and be super lightweight and hard to cast on bait casting equipment. I believe this one comes in at 7/16, so a little easier to cast. And then the phenomenal colors that you're gonna get on it. So got a bunch of great Strike King colors, but the flat sides really has that tight shimmy action and gonna be a great crankbait for early season. I believe we'll probably see this as a big time player in the next classic if it's they push it more towards February timeframe of the year. The next one here is their Evader topwater lure. So they got it in 2 sizes. the 70 size and the 80 size. So the 70 size, probably gonna wanna throw it on your spinning rod. The 80 size, 3/8 of an ounce, you can bomb this thing with bait casting equipment, no problem. But unique topwater with that metal bill on there. If you've never seen these styles of topwaters before, they're really cool. They're super fun to fish. So great bait to throw for schooling fish in the middle of summer. So depending on your fisheries, I mean, some of those spotted bass places where they're out there schooling on blueback herring, these are crazy fun to throw. So with that bill, it forces them to the top and they kind of skip across the surface and they jump up out of the water just like a fleeing bait fish. Really fun top waters to fish, got them in multiple sizes. Check those ones out there from Strike King. The next one here is a harness style swim bait. They're calling this one the Final Copy. So the last couple of years, a lot of these harness style swim baits have come out on the market, and you know, bunch of different ones out there. But what I immediately noticed about this one is how heavy it is. So they're using a heavier soft plastic, and they're putting more weights in this thing, and it's noticeable. And you can tell it's a lot wider than some of the ones out there on the market as well. But what's great about this thing being so heavy is you're gonna be able to fish it deeper and you're gonna be able to fish it faster than some of the other baits on the market. And that's gonna allow you to kind of change up your retrieve speed. And you're not gonna be limited to just one retrieve speed. Of course, you can fish it slow. Pretty much everything swims when it's slow most of the time, but it's really when you start to speed things up, if it maintains its action. And that is where this one is gonna shine. Got a magnet on there and that nice slot to hold that hook. Bunch of great colors. Got it in 2 sizes. This is the bigger of the 2. They got a smaller one if you're looking for a smaller one as well. This next one is one that me and the guys in the office are fighting over the most. So the Rage Buzz Minnow. So I'm a huge fan of like the Rage Toad and the Rage Tail Shad. And this is kind of answering some of the problems I've had with the other ones, especially with the Rage Tail Shad, which is that thing makes a ton of noise. If you've never used one of these topwater baits with that big Rage Tail on there, just the one single, it makes a tremendous amount of noise. I can't express that enough. But the problem with that one is it's flat and it's kind of like a pancake, so it didn't really cast that well. So you would have to throw it on a little bit lighter equipment than you would with like your normal kind of like frog setup, and it'd sometimes be less than ideal for certain types of environments. But this thing is gonna be awesome. So it has that big slot in it as well, which is another huge upgrade. That big slot really gonna increase your hook penetration and your hookup ratios, and a nice slot on the top to put the hook point in, which is another problem that I didn't really like that much about the Rage Shad, even though it was such a phenomenal bait and caught so many fish. But that's just gonna increase that efficiency, and the way it's shaped, kind of a triangular shaped bait, it's gonna track perfect every single time. So if you've never fished this style of bait, you put a big, weedless style hook on there. It's like your toad style, topwater frog, but this thing makes a ton of noise and it sounds like a buzz bait coming through the water, but you can fish it through anything. So it's really, really cool that Strike King did this one and kind of made some upgrades. And yeah, like I said, we literally only have these 3 and we're fighting over who gets what color. And there's been a lot of rock, paper, scissoring and drawing names out of a hat on who gets what on each one of these. But if you can always throw these things on a buzz bait if you want to make something super crazy loud. So new topwater there from Strike King. A couple more topwaters are their new Bitsy Poppin' Pad Perch and just the regular Pad Perch. So these are great baits from Strike King. They've been out for, I forget how many years they've had them out now, but now they're coming in a Bitsy model. So really great for fishing ponds that just have small fish. If you have, a pond that's just full of 1-pounders, full-size frogs aren't always the deal for that. This is gonna get you some bites if you're fishing for smaller fish, or even places with smallmouth. I mean, that little thing right there, a spotted bass, they suck that thing down no problem. But it still has a really stout hook, so you can still throw this on a decently heavy rod with braid and not have any problem bending the hook out. So great little additions to the Bitsy lineup if you're looking for a smaller topwater. The next one here is their the Fluorospin, fluorocarbon underspin. So they've had the tour grade underspin out for a long time, and now they've got an option where the blade is attached by a piece of fluorocarbon. Really cool, kind of an ingenious design. And once it's running in the water, that blade's gonna be able to move around and just create a little bit more action. They've got a nice keeper on there. You're gonna be able to keep plastics on there really well. So not only is there lead going one way, there's wires going the other way. That thing's gonna lock plastics in place really well. And then, some of the underspins out there on the market, I never thought about this, is the rigid wire, they stick out pretty far, and it might kind of inhibit, a fish like a smallmouth, getting a good hold of it. With that, that blade, it's not sticking down here 2 inches. That blade's not sticking out of the way, and it's not gonna impede a fish getting a bite. So they'll be able to go in there and grab it and get a hold of it, and it's gonna collapse, and then the fish is gonna be able to get it. Really cool underspin there from Strike King. The last one, the homing minnow. So I'm guessing we can all assume what this one's built for. So it's built for forward-facing sonar. They've got some great colors I'm super pumped about in this lineup. So a small, 3.5-inch bait. I believe it's got a 1/4-ounce head on it, but it's really built for the forward-facing market. But tie it on and just go fishing. You don't have to mess around buying jig heads, buying minnows, and rigging them up. This one, it's made to fish right out of the package. And then it's got kind of a triangle-shaped body as well. So it's wider at the top and kind of narrows down at the belly. So it's gonna have a great roll to it. Nice kick, bunch of different colors. If you're looking for more forward-facing sonar baits, there's another one to add to the arsenal. The last one, the baby luau craw. So we just got that luau craw, not very long ago. And now they've got a smaller version. And this is the size that I'm really pumped about. So it's got that skirting up on the top. So your like hula style grub, it's got that skirt on there. And then you can run this thing on a little ball head. So you kind of have your jig skirt and plastic all in one. But where these really shine is in the cold water months. In the middle of winter, throw these things on a small football head, a ball head, whatever you want, and cruise them along the bottom. But just like a small double-tail grub that has a lot of action in the arms, those little baby rage arms are gonna kick and have great actions. But now in that Strike King craw, that rage craw body, which really captures the essence of a craw bait, but super cool that Strike King's adding this to their lineup, the little baby luau craw. I can't wait to try these in the winter time. Got 2 more left. So Z-Man, 2 more brands, I should say. Z-Man. We got the new Chatter Shads. So last year they came out the Chatter Spike. This is really built on the Chatter Spike, but now with that big flat tail. So if you want something that's got the bigger tail on it that's gonna push more water, Chatter Shads is gonna be the way to go. Super pumped to try these out. Another one that I'm pretty excited about. Just more of that shad profile versus the ones that just come down to a straight pin tail. So it got all the segments on there, and it's made out of Elastec. Can't ever say enough good things about Elastec. So when you're on the chatterbait bite and they're chewing the paint off the jig head, this is the trailer you want on there. Once it's on there, you can probably catch 50, 100 fish on one bait before you have to change it out. So it saves you a ton of money in the long run. And the last one is actually gonna be a TW exclusive for a while, is the Drop Kickers minnow. So tiny little minnow bait, and it's got that little bulbous tail on the back of it. So instead of a pintail with that little bulb kind of, or it's kind of a wedge, it's gonna have just a super, super subtle swimming action. So when you're sitting there, and especially if you got a little current or water movement, it's just gonna sit there and swim in place, and it's not gonna just quiver just like how a pintail would. So it actually has some more swimming action to it. But really cool little drop shot bait, gonna be deadly all the times you need a little drop shot minnow. But this one, it's almost kind of a in-between of like a swim bait and like a pintail style minnow. So just really subtle swimming action, gonna be deadly on a drop shot. Last up from Seagar, we got a couple things here. First one is this new line bag, accessory bag. So we got them in a couple sizes. This one is the widest one. I'm actually really excited about this, specifically for ocean fishing, since I'm always carrying around a bunch of different leader spools with, tons of different line classes on it. Now you can keep it all organized and you can spool right from the bag. But if you have filler spools, the 200-yard spools, you can stack these things up, whatever sizes you want, whatever different kinds, braid, floral, mono, if you want to do it like that, whatever you want, you can fill them in there. And then they got this line bag, this line management system. It's kind of a line bag and reel bag combo all in one. You can fill it up, you can put all your line on it, line in it if you're a traveling angler or you're trying to keep stuff organized in the garage. So you can kind of move these around and organize it how you want to. put your bulk spools in there, your filler spools, whatever you want. But it's got ports, so you can spool right out of the bag. The bag can be closed. It's going to add a little tension on there as well to keep the line tight, and you can spool right out of the bag. I'm super pumped to try this out. To maybe put some line in there, put a couple of reels, and be a nice little case for traveling to keep everything kind of all in one spot. It's got an additional pouch right here, so you can put your pliers and scissors and other accessories. Just a really cool bag there from Seagar. And last but not least, the new Pounce fluorocarbon leader line. So Seagar is now offering this leader line, depending on the size. I believe we have it from 6 to 15, and it's super abrasion resistant, a really, really strong line, but maintains a really thin diameter. Most of the time, when you get a super strong line, you sometimes sacrifice line diameter. Not with this stuff. Pounce fluorocarbon leader, and comes in at a great price point. I mean, Seagar makes some of the best line on the market. The inventors of fluorocarbon. I use so many different Seagar products, and I'm pumped to try this one out. Comes in $7.99 to $8.99 depending on the size. So you're getting Seagar quality at a phenomenal price point for a leader spool. I know that was a lot to throw at everyone. I mean, tons and tons of new baits. I'm looking over, make sure I didn't miss none. I think we covered it all. I know it's a long episode. Thanks for sticking with us. For more information, or if you want to pre-order any of this stuff, most of it is up for pre-order right now. And some of it's even in stock to buy right now. Some of the stuff, like the Gambler stuff, is in stock right now, ready to purchase. But if you want to get in front of the line of the pre-order, jump on the pre-orders right now, and make sure to head on over to the website and check out all the Icast coverage. Going to be going on, all week long. We'll have tons of coverage showing all the new products from this year's 2024 Icast show. Thanks for watching.
Hey, I'm Matt Allen.
And I'm Tim Little.
And welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Nah, just kidding, just kidding.
What's up, guys?
We got Tim Little here and Matt Allen from Tactical Bassin. I'm Joey from Tackle Warehouse.
Jake from Tackle Warehouse as well.
And
I messed it up.
Messed it up. That's all right. We're rolling with it.
Yeah.
This is the Tackle Warehouse and Tactical Bassin Icast 2024 rundown. Isn't that right, Jake?
Oh, that's right. I mean, just laying this stuff out. I mean, I think we got the highlight reel of Icast this year.
Yeah, we talked about doing a lot of small talk, guys, ease into the segment, but we got way too much product to cover here. So, should we just jump into it?
Let's just jump into it.
All right, you guys are pretty quiet over there so far.
That's pretty typical. Stuff in front of us.
Yeah, is it? Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump right into it. We're going alphabetically through a rundown of Tactical Bassin's favorite products from 2024 Icast so far. So, we're leading off with Abu Garcia. What do we got, Matt?
Man, this show is stacked this year. The first thing is the Revo X BFS. That reel is a true BFS reel at an affordable price, which is something that we absolutely needed.
Sure.
The entire market needs that. BFS is exploding. There's not a lot of budget-friendly options in the category.
Yeah. Really cool. There's a lot of people that haven't embraced BFS stuff yet. I know you're not one of them. I'm definitely a big fanboy.
I'm just waiting for you to sell some of your old ones.
You're just trying to get a deal.
Exactly.
I'm a very practical BFS fisherman. I like it to replace my spinning rods. Matt, I know you have like an enthusiast problem, including some Abu Garcia products, right?
Yep.
So having something that guys can jump in and try an affordably priced BFS reel and really see what that's all about. Really what we're talking about is, 4 to 8 pound test, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Jake, you're missing out, man. Like being from the West Coast and fishing those
I know I'm missing out.
Like it will replace most of your spinner rods. It is so much fun.
I have a BFS-ish style setup that's a Daiwa setup that I've been using to replace some of my spinning rods. It's for sure replaced a couple of them. I don't even need to take them anymore.
Well, it definitely seems like 2024 Icast is kind of like a bait finesse or like jig and minnow type show. There's a lot of new baits, a lot of stuff in the category. So pretty excited about that.
And there's just way more options now. Like you guys are saying, an affordable price point, so you can get into a setup and not be out $400 or $500 bucks. Like when it was originally coming out, all the reels were such high-end price point reels.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff on the market now that's affordable, and if you haven't tried it, now you can spend a little bit of money and try and see if you like the bait finesse thing. But it is so much fun catching big fish on little light line stuff. I can't say enough good things about it.
We got so much to get through. I don't want to get hung up on this, but one of one of my pet things, you mentioned this is a BFS and forward-facing sonar jig head minnow type heavy show this year, 2024. I think everyone expected that. For me, there hasn't been a lot of discussion about those two things going hand in hand, and they certainly have for me. So I'm really interested to see people jump into more of the, whether it's a jig head minnow or a small swim bait or whatever, on light line, stuff you'd normally throw on a spinning rod. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, and just the jig head minnow stuff too. You don't have to have forward-facing sonar for that stuff to work. You could go to your favorite point, main lake point, and fish it. You don't have to have the latest and greatest electronics, right? You can still catch fish without having all the forward-facing if you don't want to.
Sure. 3 minutes into the segment, I think we've mentioned forward-facing sonar way too many times already. So let's move on to the next product.
Let's do it.
Hopefully it's like a flip bait or a crankbait or a topwater, something awesome.
No, big stuff.
Big stuff.
Yes.
We got Bait Sanity next. Let's
Nice.
talk about that.
Yeah, we have the Chimera Shad and the Tug. Talk about that guy.
Which they're not new baits, but Bait Sanity's got some new stuff coming out. But we just wanted to give these a mention as well because I believe we've all discussed that they fly a little bit under the radar.
They do. They come out. They hit the ground running. They have some really cool stuff. This guy right here is one of my favorite glide baits to throw on the Tennessee River. Caught a lot of big fish on it. It has great action. It doesn't break the bank. It comes with a lot of the things that you wish that a lot of the glide baits would come with, like swiveling hook hangers, that sort of stuff. Good colors, kind of that paintbrush style tail, which is killer, but the action, it swims great. You can burn it, you can chop it, you can walk it, you can do a lot of things with this glide bait. So Bait Sanity, they have some really cool baits.
The thing with that bait too is it's user friendly. There's a lot of baits that you've got to know how to work them. And that's a bait where you can go out and you can work it and chop it and do all those things, or you can just straight reel it and you get almost the exact same action out of it. It's amazing. You can just chuck and wind that thing and it will pull fish. The Tug is a bait that I really like, and it flies completely under the radar.
Totally.
I see very few people talk about it, and it's a mix of a glide bait and a topwater. You can get this thing, if you pop that rod and you work it hard, you get an amazing subsurface walk that breaks surface in the corners. It's unlike anything else, and I feel like it's completely overlooked myself.
Sure. Yeah, it has that look of like a trout being chased. You guys on the West Coast have seen that, right?
Yeah, how many times have you seen trout doing that and you wish you had something you can fire right in there and have that same action?
Yeah, that's a very overlooked topwater bait, and when you get that right twitch, that right cadence, and like Matt said, that thing walking and jumping, it's really, really cool.
So for me, that hasn't replaced, like a lunker punker. Nothing can replace a lunker punker. But for those times when, say, you got really clear water, high sun, if you're on a trout bite and you've seen the fish have seen a ton of lunker punkers, you can move that thing really fast and make that fish come up and get super hot and then slow it down, like you said, walk that thing and get that bite. It's an awesome bait that I think a lot of people just look at and like, I don't even know what to do with that thing.
Right,
So,
totally.
Really cool. We got some other stuff from Bait Sanity,
More
right?
traditional stuff from them. The simple bait, lipless, which this is a bait that fascinates me. I think that it's a little bit nichey in when I throw it, but in that application, it's incredible. So this bait floats. It looks like a lipless, it is a lipless, but it doesn't behave like a lipless. It's a floating bait. When you burn it, it sucks down maybe a foot to 1.5 feet max under the surface. And if you're not really sending it, you're fishing within 6 inches of the surface. For me, Tennessee River, where we live, we spend a lot of time with fish dirt shallow up on the flats, and the lipless bite is amazing, but if it's anything but mud, you can't do it. And this is a bait that you can get super shallow, shallower than a square bill, pull fish, tons of sound, and then float it back out of anything you get into. I really like that bait.
That is a really cool bait. Just burn it above the tops of the grass. Clear Lake, backs of coves.
I was going to ask if you'd ever been to Clear Lake, California.
In the fall when those fish are super shallow, my go-to bait back then was like like you have the BDS-1 or the BTC 50, those really shallow square bills. That fish is just like it. You can burn it a lot faster, but if you're fishing the delta and you need to fish above the grass, or you're just fishing super shallow, when those fish are up shallow chasing bait, burning this thing is really, really cool.
You were making me nervous, Tim, that you were going to get one of these sharp trebles in your arm. You were getting so excited about the simple bait.
No, that thing is cool, because you can fish it so shallow, and there's definitely a need for it in certain types of fisheries, I mean, we don't always get it out in our reservoirs in California because it's so deep, the banks are so steep. But I know the only time I went to Guntersville, from being from California, you fire LV 500 out there and you're buried in the grass. And it's like, oh, this is not the same. This is different.
Right.
So this is for sure going to play in, different fisheries where you have that application.
I actually didn't know a single thing about this bait. I just thought it was another lipless until just now. So I've been educated, and I'll be buying some as it happens.
Probably a few more things on this table.
Welcome
as
to
well.
Tactical Basset.
Yeah. All right. Well,
we got
tell
the
us
jerk
about
bait.
this jerk bait. This has a lot going on. It's another really interesting. You said something like a couple of staples or something introducing these two baits, but anything but, right? This is
Right.
not your typical lipless, and this is
And
not
not.
your typical jerk bait. So tell us about those.
The jerkbait is another one of those interesting products that is completely different than anything else, honestly. So it comes with a slot in it, and then it comes with 4 different sets of rattles, and that has different weights to it.
Sure.
So depending on if you want a floating bait, suspending bait, sinking bait, or more importantly, depending on water temperature,
Depth,
you can pop them in and out
Yeah.
and completely change the behavior of that bait. They click right in, and you've got a bait. So instead of tuning baits to do all sorts of things, playing with hooks, playing with sticking weight on there, you've got a single bait that you can just quickly interchange to do all sorts of things. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, definitely intriguing. Being able to change the depth that you're fishing your jerk bait on the fly is pretty cool.
Yeah, I really like the idea of that. I think I covered that in one of the other videos, and just the fact of being able to switch out weights, for different times of the year, because your jerkbait's not going to suspend, in the middle of. It's not going to be the same in the middle of January as it is, maybe in April when the water temp goes up 10, 15 degrees. It's totally going to change what that thing does, and that you're not having to change out 3 treble hooks or add weights or trying to mess around with stuff.
I'm thinking about fishing a jerkbait on forward-facing sonar. We managed to go 5 minutes without talking about forward-facing
really
sonar.
good.
That was good. There's so many times where you're fishing a jerkbait and you're fishing whatever it is, a brush pile or a rock pile that's in, the
certain
top
depth.
of it's in
Right.
6 feet, and then your very next spot is in 12 feet or 10 feet or 3 feet. And now what? Your rod tip up, or how are you going to adjust?
Different
This
bait.
bait's going to adjust for you, and it comes with a cool little box you can put your
little
different
case for all your
throttle
weights
sets
in there.
in your pocket there. So really interesting, innovative product from Bait Sanity. What do we expect from them?
Right.
It's always innovative.
They're always
It's
pushing the
always
envelope,
different.
for
Always.
sure.
Yep, they've been awesome. All right, well, that's it for Bait Sanity. A couple of samples we don't have here, but things I want to talk about. Specifically, the Bill Lewis Zigzag. It's a front runner. Matt's going, oh yeah. Something
runner kings.
I love, something I know you guys love, something that the guys in the office, oh, why didn't you tell me about that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's an old trick. Guys
Right.
are obviously
Right.
coming back with that. So excited to see that. We don't have a sample of that, but
Yeah, it's
we'll
been a
certainly
hole in the
talk
market
about it.
for a long time.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know
If you've tried to find an old one and can't, they're probably in boxes in our house.
in one of our, we bought cases of those.
I mean, we
things,
had to
like-
beg and plead for someone else to make us one.
Phil Hunt made us.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
PH Custom.
PH, yeah.
Made us
I have
a
those
really nice one that I got a bunch of those too.
So do I.
Yeah, oh yeah. So yeah, we don't have one of those to talk about, but definitely check those out. Great summertime school and fish deal. Up next, we got some rods, Cashin. Let's talk about those.
So the Cashin, new BFS rods. We got the 6.8 Ultralight, which is an exclusive they did with you guys earlier this year, which is an amazing rod. So Cashin, they did the 6.8, 610 medium light, and then the 7-foot light were the first two. Then they did the 6.8 Ultralight. They're expanding now, and what's so interesting is that these two, you've got a 7.2 medium light and a 7.6 light. And I think what we're seeing right here, I'm very intrigued by these. I look forward to putting a lot more time into these because this is making a very clear split in bait finesse. So to this point, bait finesse has been a JDM thing, right? It came to the US, but it already existed in Japan. But American anglers as a whole have a very different style of fishing overall. We tend to fish more aggressively, a little bit heavier line. And this is the first time that I've seen a true break where somebody's acknowledging, hey, American anglers do this a little bit differently. And now we're seeing, I mean, a 7.6 light, you're talking about bait finesse hair jig fishing, like long range spy baiting, long range Kitech fishing, like whole different animal than we necessarily saw in the beginning where people were just importing true JDM style rods. And I think that's the start of something.
Which I think there's a lot of anglers that have never tried the BFS stuff that might say, ding,
Ding.
Didn't like that tip anyway.
So we know where there's a good warranty at on those.
Oh yeah, but that might say, whatever it is, eighth ounce hair jig, like that is a spinning rod. There's no way I can throw 6 pound line on a casting rod and I can throw it as far as I can on a spinning rod. I'm telling you, you can throw it as far. And for me, it's, it eliminates some of the hassles of spinning rods. And it's also just really, really fun.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And it's the same muscle memory as throwing your favorite. It doesn't matter if you're throwing a Huddleston or a 2-inch, whatever swim bait. You're using that same muscle memory, and I don't know. It's a ton of fun. So
and you get that same like numerous times a day. You get that same set. Your rod doesn't move, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is this? And it's a 3-pounder. But it's it's such a joyful way to fish, man.
Totally.
And there's really a lot of I'm gushing BFS, but there's so many practical tournament applications.
for
So
sure.
that's where it really gets me.
Yeah, Mountain Eye, we love going north chasing giant smallmouth, and I think this last go around for me, I took 1, maybe 2 spinning rods. Everything else was bait finesse.
Really. It's
Spy
amazing
bait,
how it's
hair
changing.
jig, finesse too. All that stuff is now on a bait caster. It's really cool.
I like what you said about the 7.6 replacing some of those spinning rods for spy baits, because most of the spy bait rods were like 7.6 spinning rods.
Right.
All some of the ones that we've gotten from Daiwa that they made specifically for spy baiting, 7.6s. So you want that to make that long cast to make to cover more water with those baits.
Yeah, a lot of these companies now are making 5 and 6 pound braid, smooth braid. So you spool that up with that braid, and you can cast so much farther than you can with a spinner reel. You don't have to deal with line twist.
Yep.
There's just a lot of benefits doing the bait finesse.
Really cool, really fun. All right, we got to get off bait finesse.
All right.
And luckily we can, because we got some products from Daiwa. We do have some bait finesse products from Daiwa.
we have more, but
We'll go short.
yeah.
We'll start with the non bait finesse stuff. We got new Fuego rods. So let's talk about those real quick. We do have a really good deal on the old Fuego rods. So if you're looking for a hot deal, go check out the clearance page at tacklewarehouse.com. Right, the new Fuego rods is a very approachable price point.
Right.
Really cleaned up, beautiful cosmetics, and a great lineup of new actions that are really going to accommodate the most serious fisherman or somebody that's just looking to get into having a wider
Right.
array
More,
of models.
available to have more combos at not at such a huge price.
Pizza's here.
Yeah.
These guys here. Someone's trying to get in.
Oh yeah. Should we go answer that on camera?
Go for it. Let's see what it is.
Yeah, Corey, go get it.
Yeah. Corey's got it.
What I like about these too is that Daiwa's bringing like their custom, like Daiwa reel seats and these things, which I've always been a fan of. They're super comfortable and just a sweet looking reel seat and setup for these rods.
Very cool.
What else we got from Daiwa?
So we got a couple of rods. These are BFS rods.
Bait finesse rods.
Bait finesse.
Again.
Correct. Muscle memory for me saying BFS. Bait finesse.
Bait finesse. Yeah.
So we have one from the Tatula, and then we have kind of a one-off here to match up with the PX, right? Mm-hmm. So a couple of different models, a couple of different takes on the action, a couple of different price points.
Yeah, it was interesting playing around with these rods. This PX line, Daiwa's had bait finesse reels and stuff for a long time over in the Japanese market. They're just now kind of bringing over their reels and their rods to this market. But playing with both of these rods, the Tatula, kind of like the Cashin, has kind of that U.S. feel to it, the actions to it. Whereas that PX line is super tippy. It has that true JDM finesse-y tip to it.
Complete other end. Like if you're curious what JDM bait finesse is, that is the most impressive example of that I've seen.
Right.
I mean, that
And
tip
just look
is
at the end of that blank.
crazy
I mean,
light
just
on that.
compared to the Tatula on the end of it.
Yeah, look at the
I think
difference.
it's micro thin on the end
Yeah,
of that blank.
and this is a solid tip rod, I believe.
Yes, it
too.
is.
Yeah.
And it actually comes in a lighter rod too. I think there's a light and an ultralight or a medium light.
Yeah,
something like
that's
There is
not
two
even the
actions
lightest
on
one.
it.
Right.
And there is the reels to pair up with them that they came out with at the Classic, so you can get a rod and reel that matches up with themselves.
Yeah. Like you said, Daiwa has had at least, I'm unfamiliar with necessarily the JDM rod game in bait finesse, but they've had the reels for 10 or 12 years
Right.
at least, and our market just wasn't prepared for
We
that.
weren't ready
Wasn't
for
ready.
it.
We
And
got
I-
some like 10 years ago,
We
and we
did get-
didn't even know what they were for.
And we could not give them away.
No.
I think we were laughing at them.
Yeah, we're like, what are you gonna do with this thing?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
now I love it.
Hindsight.
Yeah.
So I've been
Yeah.
begging Daiwa to bring over their bait finesse stuff for years. So I'm glad it's finally making it to the U.S. So that's the new PX and the Tatula bait finesse rods. We do have a couple of very practical bait cast models here.
Bait casting.
I didn't say bait finesse.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm stating. We're back on the casting.
We're
That's-
back
Full
on
size.
casting.
Full size.
Yeah.
Yeah, full size casting rods. So this is the SV 150
And the 100.
and 100, right? Just some of their most practical day-to-day, straight fluorocarbon, braided line. I think that SV 150 was actually made for braid.
Yeah, they designed that one specifically to perform a little bit better with braid.
Yep.
So there's a little bit different spools in them and the way they kind of put them together.
Yep. And for you deal hunters, we do have great prices on the old models going out on these as well. So that's exciting. I mean, we're talking meat and potatoes, the next generation of the 100 and 150 in the Tatula lineup here. Not much to say there other than they're rock solid. Jake and I actually did a really long form segment with the guys from Daiwa, including research and development
That's awesome.
put so much time into making these perfect fishing tools for you. So check that out. So some really cool new bait casters here from Daiwa. What else do we? Oh, there's a Coastal 150, which we don't have a sample of here.
Don't got one.
But just all the great same Daiwa bait casting technology, but just in a bulletproof. If you're a red fisherman, striper fisherman, calico, like that's going to be a great
Inshore reel.
super durable inshore
Yeah.
reel. So that wraps it up for Daiwa. You want to talk about dirty jigs? You guys know anything about dirty jigs?
Dirty, what's that?
Yeah. No, I don't know. Grab it.
Where is that?
I don't know where it's
Yeah,
at.
My
I know.
goodness.
We think we lost it in the pile here. There was
There's got to be something in here.
the tungsten head.
We don't
new
have
guppy
one
head?
with us.
Oh.
But the new tungsten
Isn't it
guppy
your
is
head?
HD.
the HD is amazing. It is amazing.
Well, tell us about it.
All right,
So
so-
we'll have to paint it. Do you want us to get a pad and you can
we
draw
get
yeah,
a
a
I'll
picture?
draw it
Yeah.
out for you. So the Dirty Jigs Guppy Head is probably, well, it's one of, if not the most popular small finesse swim bait type head there is. I mean, that thing's amazing. We use it for everything. Traditionally, always with the 1/0 size hook in it, but now that the jig and minnow thing has exploded, the 3/0 is the major deal there. However, those baits still have that little finesse hook in them. So they have now released their HD version. So tungsten head and heavy duty hook. So not a larger hook, still a 1/0 hook,
Heavier wire.
way heavier wire. It's solid. In fact, it's the same hook that's in our mini underspin, which we also totally didn't bring because that's how we operate. But
Great
that
job.
same heavy duty
Terrible
hook, and
learning our
it's
stuff.
awesome. I mean, you're talking about a little guppy head that you can still set with 5-pound fluoro, but you can also set with 12-pound line and not bend that thing out. It's dialed.
So where is that coming in for you and in complement to the existing head? You're just throwing it on heavier line, same applications?
So when we're up north throwing straight 5-pound fluoro, we're throwing the original guppy,
Yeah.
right? When we're throwing braid to a leader, or when we're fishing in the south, we think we're going to be around largemouth, and you don't know when a 7-pounder is going to eat instead of a 2-pounder,
Yeah.
absolutely throwing the HD.
Yeah.
They play so well together, but there's some very clear overlap there as well.
Really cool.
Yeah, Clear Lake Delta really come into play for you guys.
For sure.
Yeah, heavy wire.
Yeah.
That's nice though that you can still get a hook in them. Even with that HD hook, you're still able to set it with 5 or 6 pound, but gives you that range to get into heavier lines.
Right.
Yeah. And like you said, there's been a lot of people who've like, hey, what's your go-to jig head minnow? Well, it's the guppy head with the 3/0. Like that a lot of guys that's their go-to.
Yep.
So enough said on that. Up next we got Duo.
We've got them. Those are actually here.
All right.
there.
Hey, we got something.
So how about the spin bait, the heartbeat?
The heartbeat, that's this guy right here. This is an interesting bait. So my understanding is that this bait was designed to be eye motion, which is essentially very minimal motion, right? So it's a cupped face, but that cup is open. It allows water to pass through, and then you've got a spinner in the bottom of the chin. So that water's coming through and spinning that little blade in there. Then in the tail, you've got a curly tail on it that adds all kinds of action just on a slow, steady, straight retrieve. I've got to be honest, that's not at all what I do with this bait. In my mind, this bait is a bait that I'm ripping and popping and snapping and working and getting to dart. I don't get like a true walk the dog out of it, but it's absolutely moving, rolling, jumping, and then it's got that tail back there that's churning. And I know it's not what it was built for, but that's how I've been fishing it, and I like that bait.
Yeah, I've heard
cool.
from numerous people that, the first impression is, well, that's goofy. There's like a lot going on. But it's really been something that guys that have tied it on and have had access to it early are finding really practical ways of catching fish on it. So that's really cool. I'm interested to get out there.
There was one in the office, and that's immediately what we thought. They brought it down for us to image it. And I was like, what are you going to do with that thing? I was like, what does this thing do?
Right.
Just because it's so
looks so
out there,
different.
out of the ordinary. But I bet a spotted bass annihilates that thing.
Well, that's not always a super high bar.
No.
And then the spin bait 70, just a downsized version. The Duo spy bait, spin bait, that's been a staple for Matt and I for years. Kind of is the staple in that category, just the downsized 70. So again, like I said earlier, bait finesse, up north, light line, throwing it on a bait caster. Just that real subtle shimmy. I don't know why, but it works. But that guy right there, a little bit smaller presentation, same great action.
What's so funny about the spin bait 80, and I don't know if you guys had this same situation where when I first got those, I was like, this thing is so tiny. I don't even know if I'm interested. And then after fishing it and catching really nice fish on it, I was like, man, it's too big. I want a smaller one.
More finessey.
Yeah. So it's just such a subtle action, and you're often fishing it in such clear water around schooling fish that having that smaller profile one. If you hold that up and look, imagine the size of a shad. I mean, that's still the same size or even bigger than your average thread fin, right?
Yeah, that is still the length of a good sized thread fin.
Right. So it's not by any means a micro bait.
Right. And we've caught giant largemouth on them too. They just get
I have two as well.
I was one of those
Giant
guys,
smallies.
up till just a couple years ago that was kind of a sleeper on that spy bait, that whole game, and that Duo has caught a lot of big fish for us both.
Yeah.
The other thing with that 70 specifically, you said it, bait finesse, but like true on the water, that Cashin ultralight that you guys did, it will send that thing off the horizon, and it's that same muscle memory. Like when they eat that, it's small enough that you can smash them with an ultralight rod at distance, and the battle is insane.
Thunk.
Oh, it's fun.
It's addicting.
That's cool. All right, one more thing to talk about from Duo, and that's something that has been, actually pretty much sold out all year. There's been huge demand for the BR fish and the BR head.
Yes.
I actually haven't had any time with this, but I've seen what it does in the water.
Cool action for sure.
The BR fish and the BR head are, so this jig and minnow thing has exploded, right? I mean, it's taken over an entire segment of bass fishing. So
Look at
it's
this
taken
table.
over a lot of the tournament fishing. Yeah, look at this table compared to a year ago, right? It's incredible. There's a lot of Me Too type products in that market. Like everybody needs a minnow to get in that game, but there's a handful of things that are unique and truly different. And the BR head is one of those things. That head has these little fins on it, and when you pop that thing, you can get this thing to truly walk the dog underwater. And depending on the size of the head, you can do that at any depth. It is very different than anything else that I've seen, at least, and I've been very impressed by those.
Yeah, a lot of the jig and minnow stuff, you're just shaking it, it's just dancing around vertically. You know, this is a side-to-side darting action like a fleeing bait fish, which is, you guys know, schooling fish, spotted bass, offshore, you know, shafts of those lakes on the West Coast. That thing really works.
I mean, you're effectively soft jerkbait fishing or fluke fishing at 30 foot.
Right.
Whole different ball game.
That's a good way to put it. Is you're fishing, you know, that soft jerkbait style, but in much deeper water than you can ever get a weightless fluke.
Yeah, getting that real erratic side-to-side action.
I remember years and years and years ago thinking, man, if I could just get this jerkbait
Down.
to 25 feet, like I would smash them. So anyway, that's a really interesting addition. It, like you said, does something that pretty much none of the rest of the jig head minnow category is doing at the moment. So that wraps it up for duo. We got Great Lakes Finesse. Do we have samples of that?
We've got some.
We do.
Two soft baits. The first one is just a larger size in the drop minnow. You know, they've got their drop minnow in I want to say it's a 2.75.
Yeah.
Now they've got it in a 3.25, which Great Lakes Finesse, I mean, the name says it all, right? Major finesse fishermen. And I think for a lot of the country, a slightly larger size is necessary. And that's a great play. I mean, a 3.25 is not large by any means. It's just larger than what they had. That's a great addition. The other one is the hover minnow. This is headed into that minnow category, but this is another one. We've seen a lot of minnows this year, and there's 3 or 4 baits that I think stand out from the crowd. We just talked about one. This is another one that does some things that are very, very unique and different than anything else. So they have their own heads. They've got their standard swim bait head, and then they just added a second head where that line tie is moved back for like more of a vertical presentation, keeping that thing flat in the water as opposed to tipped up. But what this bait will do, it's got this cupped belly, completely different than anything else. And as a result, this thing glides. So you can fish it, you know, jig and minnow, shaking that rod tip, you can do all that stuff. But if you kill it, it goes in to that true spiral, which is something that we've done forever. We were making our own. I say we, I took a little credit for that. Tim was getting heads made. I was stealing them and catching a lot of fish on those things. But that spiral, especially in clear water. So if you are on forward facing and you know those fish are behind that thing, you can just kill it and it's not just a bullet headed for the bottom.
Yeah.
But aside from forward facing, just fishing, because honestly, I spend the vast majority of my time just blind fishing this stuff. I like that I can fish that thing quick in the water, but I can also throw it out, spot a dock, shoot it under the dock, and just leave it. And that thing just does its slow thing to the bottom. It's very different. You pop them up, let it go again. It's an action that they eat, and it's a very, very small profile. It does seem like, so their heads are flat-sided. Maybe I can get one of them out of here. And it does seem like, so I like the guppy head a lot. For this particular bait, that flat-sided head seems to matter. When I've tried to throw it on, you know, I'm already tied up on the boat, I just try to throw that bait on that same head. I don't see that same effect. For whatever reason, that bait and that head seem to pair extremely well to get the action out of them the way they intended.
Yeah, that spiral, that is key. I'm sure you guys have seen dying shad, right? What do they do when they're falling?
Yeah,
They
right.
just do that death spiral, and those fish just come up and eat it. So having a bait that you don't have to rig a nail weight in or twist
Right.
on the hook or all that stuff, you just rig it and then kill it and let that thing do that real wide death spiral. That could be magical.
I think you guys are onto something with, I mean, that one's going to be another one that the minnows that stand out, and I think it's going to fly under the radar because it flew under my radar, and I just have had to see almost every Icast product this year, and just going through the stuff, I'm like, you know, minnow, it's this, it's that, and that. From a side profile, you see like it's a minnow bait, but when I filmed one of these, I think a week ago, and I pulled out, I was like, whoa, It's got that on there. It's like, I know what that's going to do. You know, just catch water and make it do all kinds of cool stuff.
The other thing that's interesting, you know, Great Lakes guys designed that thing, clear water fishing. When you stall that thing out, it comes down and it just glides to a stop on the bottom, sitting dead upright. I like that a lot.
Yeah. No, it's really an interesting design, and that's the first time I've held one. Because really, from the side profile, it looks like
same.
everything else.
Right.
But when you see the belly, it looks pretty interesting. Do we have some more Great Lakes finesse designs down there?
I think that's it.
That
was it?
That's it. Yep.
All right. Well, I didn't want to get ahead of myself. But we do need to keep the train rolling. Hog Farmer, we don't have samples, I don't think.
We've
right?
got 'em.
Or we do
do.
have
We do
samples.
have 'em.
All right. And this is a little preview, right?
Yeah.
Of something that's not out yet, not ready for release at Icast.
We don't know when it's coming out.
We
yet.
don't even know. They're still perfecting it. So tell us all about this. This is a new stroll shad, right?
Yeah, so Hog Farmer makes the spunk shad. Famous bait, right? Almost everybody uses that thing on a chatterbait. It's carried over as a minnow bait. That was never its intention, but it's been amazing for it. We've been crushing fish for over a year, strolling with that thing. But they've now put out a bait that's done a couple of things. So it fits the in-between sizes with the spunk shad. So the intention here, it's called a stroll shad. It's a strolling bait. They've thinned it out. It's much smaller. And most importantly, it's a longer tail section. So significantly more tail action when compared to a similar size in the spunk shad. But the biggest thing there that I think will be overlooked is that it totally intermixes with a spunk on a chatterbait as well. So it's the in-between sizes, a 4-inch, a 5-inch, not 4.5, 5.5. And they're thinner profiles, smooth-bodied, and they're longer, so you're getting more action out of them. Like I've been throwing this bait lately. Hog Farmer is close to our house. So we went and stole some of these samples and went fishing with them and have been catching fish on them. Very impressed with the baits themselves, but I think in spring, we will be equally impressed when we're clear water fishing with that on the back of the chatterbait. I think there's a lot of carryover there as well.
So is that the situation in when you have more clear water? Is that when you're going to that trailer on a chatterbait versus the original spunk shad?
I am. Yeah, it's finessier. It's smaller bodied, but even more action. I'm very intrigued by that.
And then we have the, you guys are all familiar with the spunk shad. Now we have they have, I'm holding in my hand, the 3-inch spunk shad. That little guy right there. So if you are a forward-facing guy, or a strolling guy.
You don't need to be sorry. Dude, I like forward-facing. I like fishing on forward-facing.
Throwing that on you know, a lot of this stuff coming over from Japan, we're talking like a 32 of an ounce or a 90, like super lightweight stuff. So being able to throw a super light bait, super small, finessey presentation, that just is another bait in the arsenal for that category. And then if you are a guy that likes to throw just a small, you know, a little tiny chatterbait, that's a cool little trailer as well.
Like a little mini max chatterbait?
Yep, little tiny guy.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's same thing. So it's not just like a shrunk down spunk shad. That is shrunk down and stretched.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of times when you're running sizes with baits, you'll find like the key size that's sweet, and then there'll be a size that like doesn't have the same action. It doesn't translate. And when you go small, a lot of time you'll lose action. But I noticed right away that tail is stretched to get more action out of that smaller profile.
Interesting. You know, the spunk shad was one, like when it first came out, you called me and you're like, hey, are you throwing that thing on a chatterbait? And I was like, I bought some, I looked at it in the water, and I was like, way too much action. And you were like, try it again, because they eat it. It's just one of those things where intuitively it didn't look to me like it was going to be a great fish catcher. There's just something about that spunk shad on chatterbait that makes me eat. Hog Farmer has had a huge hit there, and I'm really excited to see some of these extensions.
Yeah, we kind of found it by accident. I think it was underwater footage we were going
That's exactly
through.
how it was.
We were
We had
running
it
a bunch
with
of
a
different
pile of other
trailers
baits.
and didn't know that it was special until we watched the slow-mo of the underwater and we're like, holy cow, that is insane.
That's really cool.
It's cool, just more sizes to add to the arsenal.
Right.
I mean, no reason why you can't drop shot that little thing when you really need like a little
That's
minnow
going to be a
bait.
killer drop
Oh,
shot
you
bait,
would drop
for
shot
sure.
the snot out of that.
Oh, 100%. On a
On a
darter
spinning
head.
On a spinning rod.
Yeah, all right. Well, we got to move on from Hog Farmer. Jackal has
a really interesting spoon to talk about. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about a not new bait that has had a big resurgence, and a lot of people wanting to get them and can't. But we're looking to Jackal to deliver more of these riser baits as people are finding out more and more about them. This is a really fun bait to fish, bait that I've caught a lot of fish on. I know you guys have too. Tell us about it.
It's not a new bait, new colors. Chrome obviously is a color that's worked really well for us over the last couple years. Those schooling fish, that riser bait is such a cool topwater action. It's just a bait that's super easy to fish on top. And if you're around those offshore fish that are come up schooling, that is the bait that you need to be throwing. It's just a really, really cool topwater bait. So super excited that they actually added some colors that that I like. The chrome is one of my top colors, especially on the schooling fish.
I mean, that thing shines particularly in the blueback herring lakes, right? And people tried to keep that quiet for a very, very long time. And they did it successfully. I think a lot of people made a lot of money without saying a word.
I think there's a lot of people are going to be mad that, that we're even talking about it.
But in those blueback lakes, there's no question with topwater that chrome is magic. Yeah. And they came out with 2 new colors. Both look amazing, but every single one of us saw the chrome and we're like, that's the one. Like, there's just something about chrome in those blueback lakes that is amazing.
So Tim, you had said about the BR fish, what does a dying shad look like? Well, it looks like this. What does a fleeing shad look like? Like right on the surface, right? And that's what the riser bait is intended to do. So really cool. Also really cool, and a new bait, it is, you look at it, all right, another flutter spoon, right? But no, this is a really interesting new spoon from Jackal.
Yeah, this spoon is interesting. I love throwing a flutter spoon.
Yeah.
Caught a lot of big ones on it. This was last week. But this spoon specifically, 2 things stood out. One, there's a bluegill pattern, which I haven't seen that before in a spoon. But this is supposed to backslide, right? So when you hop it, it's not going to do that traditional flutter side to side. It's actually going to slide back, hence the name, slide back to the fish. And according to those guys that designed it, that produces a lot more bites. So I'm excited to try this thing. I haven't got to fish it yet, but it's got some cool curves to it. So if you're a guy that's around fishing around like deep docks and stuff, I could see where that would come into play.
The other place, bluff walls.
Bluff
walls have overhang. I don't think we knew how many overhangs were hidden on bluff walls until live imaging allowed us to poke around, right? And all of a sudden you realize there's pockets on those rock walls all over the place with fish in them that you can't get to. And a bait that'll suck back in there is a whole different deal.
So Jeff, who buys Jackal for Tackle Warehouse, doesn't think anything's cool, and he's excited about it. So if there's ever been a seal of approval.
Yeah, he got it with Jeff there. But I didn't know this bait was this size. I mean, just looking at the image of it, when you look at it, 2-dimensionally, I thought it was going to be more like a jigging spoon size bait.
Yeah.
Right.
Something that size. I didn't realize it was this big and built more like a flutter spoon.
Yeah.
That's a really cool
And that
bait.
hook will mess you up.
Dude,
We both got hooked just playing with
Jackal
that.
hook. I wouldn't mess with it at all.
Yeah, it's sticky sharp.
All right, we are halfway through the alphabet. Ooh. So we gotta speed it up.
I think we got less to do on this bottom half, though.
Let's hope so, because I'm done talking to these guys.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm just kidding. It's fun. So not a new bait, but so crazy that I want to talk about it. This is the Missile Monster Jig. This came out last year, and for people that actually haven't seen it, I'm just a normal-sized human. That's a 10-aught hook, I believe.
That's a monster jig.
It's enormous.
Jig.
So have you guys been fishing? Have you fished this? I haven't fished
No,
this.
and the first thing that we talked about is we're going to use that in the ocean for sure.
you could catch yourself a lingcod on this.
Yeah,
Have
yeah,
you guys
definitely
used this
that.
for bass?
I have not yet. No.
Yeah.
I've spent very minimal time with it. However, this concept, I used to pour my own with a giant 12-aught hook years ago, and we used to rip the harnesses out of Huddleston's. This is like blowing secrets from way back in the day, but we used to rip the harnesses out of Huddleston's, pour them back in with material, put those on the back of a 12-aught, and fish them at night. Because you would get, when you're night fishing, it's not always about visibility or the appearance, it's about profile, and that jig head would give you such a connected feel to the bottom compared to just a mushy face on a swim bait.
Rubber, yeah.
Made a huge difference with your contact on the bottom when you're trying to know what's going on. Just a little something there,
Do you,
buddy.
That's
do
it.
you still have one of those rigged up?
Dude, I don't. I went to dig one out, and the last of them had rusted out.
You know how many people are going to cut open Huddlestons now after watching this and start pouring these sleds?
I just want to see it.
Yeah, I wanna
Huddleston
see
on
one.
the back of a giant jig.
Yeah.
I'm
What's,
writing that down. Cut the Huddleston out. Put 12-aught.
Jeez.
What's the guys at Missile recommended for their favorite trailer for this?
It was some kind of craw. I forgot.
Big
Yeah, it was a giant craw.
Giant craw,
It,
okay.
it was
Giant-
like that big tiki lobster
Okay,
that
yeah.
they
Yeah.
used to make, but I don't know. I can't remember exactly who's making the craw they're putting on the back of that.
It was some. They should make a
Grande bass, maybe?
I don't know. I forgot who made that craw bait, who they recommended, but it would open the door. Should make a Magnum D bomb, which I've asked for
Nice.
several times. It's like,
On-
why don't we make a Magnum D bomb?
I have
the other
a. I
end
have
of the
a.
spectrum. Those big gamblers would be. It would save you
Oh,
some
yeah,
Huddlestons,
yeah.
and that would be a good option on
Yeah,
there too.
good call. I have a wish list for Missile as well.
Okay.
So
Maybe
let's just
they'll
put
make
him
it
on the
for us.
spot right now.
Yeah, we have demands.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Something else I wanted to mention. We have some Tackle Warehouse exclusive colors in the Magic Worm.
Nice.
Which, if you guys have fished it, I've fished it. I know you've.
Oh, yeah,
Oh
I've fished
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So that's a really cool worm. And then we also have a brand new shape for Missile. Play off the Missile D-bomb. It's the micro D-bomb.
Little baby guy.
So tell us about that.
In comparison to the normal
Yeah, there
size
you
D
go.
bomb, I mean that thing is tiny, tiny little bait.
Yeah, we've had a lot of success this last year playing with the bait finesse stuff, doing like little tiny Texas rigs, right? Little 16th ounce, 8th ounce weedless Texas rigs, and this was definitely going to play in that
Absolutely.
category.
Tiny jig trailer too.
Yep. Yeah.
That category, I'm going to say, was so overlooked. I don't know that it is now. Anybody getting into bait finesse, one of the first things that you should do is get a little crawbait and try a micro Texas rig. It's one of the most fun ways to fish bait finesse because you quickly discover that if you hook a 2 or 3 pounder in heavy cover and you don't try to wrench on them, that for the most part, they come out on their own. Like the same place that you would have otherwise flipped 65-pound braid, you can flip 7-pound fluoro, load up, and just sit there, and most of them come out. It's fascinating. And you can get bit, again, home for us is the Tennessee River. Those fish get beat on. And in the spring in particular, you'll be up shallow and you can see them, you cannot catch them. They are gonna bail every time. If you go down to a little 2-inch bait, you flip it in there and it's not in the size profile that they're afraid of. They
right.
turn around and munch that thing the vast majority of the time.
Yeah, Matt and I were talking about this. This is a couple years back. I was fishing Chickamauga, just struggling, and I'm seeing fish. I know there's fish there. I rigged one up, flipped it out there. Don't 3.5 pounder. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Boom, 4 pounder. I'm like, these fish. It's just a size that they're not used to. They're not afraid of, like you said. There's just something special about throwing a little micro craw. They eat them.
Got it.
I mean, I don't think bluegill are going to be afraid of that thing.
No.
No.
Well, also when you look at, how often do you get craws that size coughed up in your live well
Right.
or
Right.
on your carpet? You see a lot of those, craws the size of your pinky or smaller, and I mean that's a perfect little snack. Also, I don't think I'm going to be flipping
punching
7 pound.
Oh,
places
yes, you
that
are.
I-
You just don't know
We're
it.
gonna get a bait
It's
finesse
coming, man.
flipping
It's
stick.
coming.
Yeah.
No, Joey Reggio, 20 pound. That's his name.
Yeah, I like 20 pound. So something else I want to talk about is we got Tackle Warehouse exclusive colors and the Missile Craw coming back. This has been, I think, primarily a West Coast kind of niche punch bait for a long time. When you're missing bites, put this teeny tiny little bite-sized thing in there, and you'll hook those bites. But it's been a quiet thing for a while. Missile hasn't been producing this bait, so we're bringing it back.
Yeah, we're stoked about that one because it's such an efficient punch bait. There's no tentacles or crazy things going on it, but it has a really cool profile. But you get that thing in and out of cover, and you're not messing around digging grass off or pulling grass off your baits and messing around.
Yep. And Matt Allen says he doesn't like them. You heard it here
The
first.
first thing
But
I
we
know
like
is how
'em.
slender it
But
is.
we-
Like a fish are right in and out. When you're on a punch bite, in and out without getting grass, that's key.
Yeah.
And that's a lot
Efficiency.
thinner than a lot of the other punch baits.
Yeah.
Maybe Matt will try it again.
Yeah.
It's just too big. That's the problem. You see it next to that other bait.
All right, let's keep it moving. A brand that you have a lot of experience with, a bait you have a lot of experience with, the Dust Spoon. Tell us what's going on with the Dust Spoon, because it's something different.
The Dust Spoon is, if you're asking me, the single best jigging spoon ever made. They come in a handful of profiles. They are unbelievable fish catchers. There's no way around it. Dirty Jigs has now licensed the Dust Spoon from Blade Runner and done some very practical upgrades. It's the little things. We all had to put swivels on them. You had to change out the hooks on them. Now they're coming with a swivel already on them, coming with a proper hook on it. That hook is dressed. It's just the little things that now you don't have to do. But that's the big thing, is that the Dust Spoon is more widely available, ready to fish. And I'm pumped on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a key player for me in the summertime. When those fish are out deep, fall, when they're out deep, that does. I mean, I don't know if you guys do a lot of vertical jigging or spoon fishing like that.
I do.
It
Because
is.
he knows where I grew
Hand
up
in
fishing.
hand with drop shot.
Yeah, yeah, that. But where I grew up fishing in the wintertime, we would jig, vertical jig fish that would be suspended in 70 to 90 feet over like 200 feet of water. There's no other way to catch them.
Right.
That's the only way you can catch those fish. But the lakes out where we live now don't really lend themselves to doing that.
No, I mean, personally, I don't do a ton of it. I throw a flutter spoon a lot. It does suck taking a spoon out of the package, and now you need to
Rigging
buy
it.
accessories
Right.
and spend 3 minutes rigging a spoon. Like, I don't want to mess with that. Just buy it.
Yeah.
Want it ready to go.
So-
It's like buying a nice crankbait that's got the hooks you want on it right out of the box.
Yep, absolutely. Which happens now.
Sometimes.
It's amazing.
Very nice.
Happens every time for me. Oh man, Nomad. So we have a really interesting bait here.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Tell us all about it. It's the Dartwing.
The Dartwing is another one of those baits that is not brand new, but is overlooked and misunderstood. Hey, thanks. So that is a bait that when I first saw it, my assumption was probably the same assumption as everyone else, which is that it's a walking bait. And when I threw it as a walking bait, it is perfectly fine, but it didn't leap off the page at me. It wasn't an amazing walking bait that suddenly replaced my other baits. But I kept the thing in my box, and I kept playing with it, and we realized that this is, and really, I'm not sure I realized it, I got hit with a Facebook ad for it, and it was a saltwater bait. And I saw that thing scurrying on the surface. There is this whole emerging category. The Jackal Riser is in that same general category of fast-moving surface baits, straight retrieve baits.
Right.
But we're seeing more and more baits that are erratic, fast, straight retrieve baits that are skipping and popping and running on the surface. We've all seen viral videos of GTs exploding in saltwater, chasing everything under the sun, but we didn't necessarily realize that carries over to bass. Particularly spotted bass, it's incredible how fast they will go after that thing. Once we figured that out, we started playing with this bait. Tim and I were on the water one day, throwing that thing around, and we were talking, and he's like, I don't know, man. I mean, I get that a GT would explode on that thing. I understand that. I don't know about,
think that
and
was a
right
good
when he got to
sentence, yeah.
about,
Yeah.
a largie in 30
Choked
feet
it.
of water unloaded on that thing. It is a very interesting category, just chucking and burning. And I like to burn, pause, burn, pause, stall it, and it'll just dance on top. It's a whole different animal. You can stop and walk it if you need to, but that's not what it was designed for.
So, it's so interesting because we're talking now for the third time about what a shad does, or any bait fish when it's fleeing. You're not going to part me from my super spook or my evergreen shower blows, but when a fish is scared, it doesn't do this. It boogies, right? Mm-hmm. So just a really interesting category of bait. Again, schooling fish, specifically spots, but it's going to,
And largemouth,
to your
yeah.
point, largemouth. If they're on bait,
They're chasing, and having that, I think the directional change is key, right?
Right.
There's a lot of baits that you can move fast, a whopper, plopper, whatever, but having that thing side to
moves
side,
side
right,
and darts.
and is moving fast.
And probably because you guys doubted it when you said like, oh, I don't know, man, I
Isn't
don't
that
know what's
always
gonna
what
work.
happens?
Boom! It's like that.
Yeah.
That's what gets them to bite right there.
Right.
Yep. Just some really cool stuff from Nomad. They make all kinds of cool stuff for
do.
all
They do.
kinds of categories of product. So another cool one. Let's jump into Rapala. Now we have some Crush City stuff. I want to start with just something that I'm really happy about. A bait. This one actually.
That's one of yours.
This one came off the floor of my boat,
Your boat?
and I brought it all the way here because
Tells the story.
it, it tells the story. I'm really happy about brand new colors in the cleanup craw.
Nice.
This has been a really, one of my favorite flip
Here's
baits.
one that has legs on it. Still.
Yeah, that one's got legs on
So
it.
if you want to, that's what it looks like when it comes out of the package. It doesn't look like that.
It's got plenty of meat to hold a big flipping hook, but it's compact. It's got it's got some action, but it doesn't have an overwhelming amount of action. And my biggest gripe with this bait has just been not enough colors. So I've been doing a lot of work with a spike it pen over the last year to make it how I want. I'm really excited to come.
You
out
only
with
fish
some-
black, blue, and green pumpkin. I don't know.
Black Sharpie.
I don't know. And they make the double, the black, blue, and green pumpkin together. It's the only color you need.
Trying to sell some new colors here.
All right.
And you're blowing it, Kata.
I know what you really fish.
This is a great bait, and I am excited for some new colors other than green pumpkin and black blue, which I do adore. But there are some great new mooch minnow, right? So mooch minnow we've been hearing about since February publicly.
I think it's won the most money out of any other bait this year, hands down.
Wheeler, Dang Old Connell. And these guys have been winning money on it, talking about it, showing it, and now it's finally becoming available. I said that we should probably put this pack up on eBay. We'd probably get $150 for it today.
Yeah, pay for dinner for it.
But tomorrow
some one
people
by
can
one.
pre-order it. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, you
So.
can pre-order it tomorrow.
Yeah. So really interesting. Again, we're talking the jig head minnow, primarily forward-facing stuff. Compared to the existing freeloader that they have, this is going to have a teeny tiny little tail on there, and it's going to impart just some slight
Subtle.
action. Haven't actually thrown this myself. Have you guys?
Yeah, we've got to play with it.
Oh, yeah.
Just a wee little
Well, then
bit.
why am I talking
Just a
about
little bit.
Yeah.
it? You talk about it.
Softer than a freeloader, obviously. Stretches. Much more subtle action. So I've been throwing this for a few weeks now. Got my hands on a pack, and thankfully, because they are this, I'm
last.
still fishing a pack.
Yeah.
And have lost. If we add yellow bass and white bass in with the largemouth, I don't know how many hundreds of fish I have caught on that pack in the last couple of weeks. It is ridiculous. Quarter-ounce guppy head, one head, super subtle shake. I love throwing a freeloader. I love throwing a spunk shad. I love throwing a Sakamata shad. But when they're not in the mood, when they're not doing it, you drop down in that size and they're on it.
So you said that's, and again, I haven't thrown the mooch minnow, so you said it's a more subtle action than the freeloader.
Yeah, how you work it is more subtle, right? The tail has more motion.
Okay, all right.
But the way you work it is super subtle. It doesn't take a lot to get that thing
Yeah, that freeloader is
moving.
just. And I can't tell you how many big fish we caught in the last week on the freeloader. That's another good bait.
Yeah.
That is a good
Yeah. You shouldn't say that anymore, though. That's. It's not like this is stalled out by 2 weeks and we're gonna run home and catch some more. That bite's not happening.
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
Do you guys try that on any other applications? You try it like with an underspin or anything like that?
Not yet.
Haven't.
All right.
No.
I'm sure it would work.
It would work
Yeah.
great, but no.
Just
one
the
hit
straight
wonder
hook.
so far, and it's been working.
Well, yeah, I guess if it's not broke, don't fix it. Yeah.
Really cool. I know that's one in particular, maybe the most anticipated bait at Icast this year. So really looking forward to the release there. Also the Jowler, do we have a...
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got
right.
one.
Oh, it's right in front. So the Jowler, this is another one that Jeff was particularly excited
about.
He got up to Clear Lake about a month ago, caught a bunch of nice fish on this thing, and it was another bait kind of like the Nomad but different, where he was surprised by the action and it didn't do what he thought it was going to do. He thought this was really going to play just in the shower blows,
Realm.
or pencil popper type category,
Right.
and it doesn't. So have you guys thrown this?
I've thrown it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's 127 size, a little bit bigger. Obviously, it has that cup face on it. Just splashes, throws water, right?
And I've been amazed at how much water it throws.
It throws a ton.
If you want it to move water, it will throw water. But if you slow it down and get more subtle, it won't.
Yeah. Looks like a lot of fun. Yeah. Sounds great.
loud.
Real, yeah.
Good
It's got those
colors.
nice hooks.
Yeah.
They've really stepped up their colors in the last few years.
They have. And their hardware too. That's one of those baits where you pop the package, tie it on, and
Don't have
go.
to
You're
change out
not
the hooks,
changing
yeah.
anything.
But
that is really
that
nice.
lip on there is substantial.
That is
So I can see what you're saying.
The
If you
cup
want,
face,
if
yeah.
you want to throw water, it's gonna move a lot. and
I mean, a
splash.
lot of pencil poppers will splash water, right? But that thing, like, if you hit it
Pushes
hard,
it.
it's like, yeah, it throws it like, up and out. It is moving water.
Yeah, very aggressive top water bait.
All right. Well, we're getting the wrap it up button from the video guys. So let's
All right.
speed
Speed it
through
up,
the rest
speed
of
it
this. Savage Gear. We have a couple of Tackle Warehouse exclusives. We have the Live 3D Bluegill line through swim bait and the Soft Shine Glide. So a couple of soft line through baits here that I think are going to be really, really cool. We've worked with Savage on getting these dialed. The bluegill, I mean, we've all seen the effectiveness now of soft glides alongside hard glides, and there's certainly a place for that. So really excited about that. All that cool Savage thought going into harness and Mads is really a mad scientist and
He is.
makes some really cool stuff.
You're getting that great. I mean, the videos he sent us of the action. This thing looks incredible in the water, and it does everything that you want. You can swim it slow, and it looks good. You can speed it up, and it goes. You can twitch it, and it darts, and doesn't blow out. And it's like a bunch of different stuff you can do with it. And it's line through, which is insanely helpful. So it's not going to tear the bait up once you get the fish hooked on there. Nice. Going to be able to keep them on it, just not tear the bait up as much as burying that treble in there every single time. Mm-hmm. And I believe the price point on these things, only like $24.
They're super affordable.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
you can get into a big glide, that bigger 7.5 inch profile for not a lot of money.
I know this guy hit the site last week. I'm actually not sure about the bluegill.
I think the bluegill goes live tomorrow, actually. But this
Awesome.
one did go live on Friday, and this is I don't even know if we should show this color. I think this is a prototype color, like one of the very first ones he ever made.
Yeah.
So
We don't
not
want to mix that up, so we'll just take
let's
that
do it.
with us.
Yeah, just slide it right over there.
Yeah, this is obviously a first look for us, but nice work, guys. Looks really
It
good.
looks good.
Yeah, excited
Can't
to
wait to get
get
back
that
and
thing
try
in the
these.
water. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to give that one a shot. So that's from Savage Gear. Continuing in the S's, we have Shimano. You guys ever heard of them?
I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah. So we have a brand new Vanford this year. Vanford carried the legacy of Stratic CI4, and this is the next generation. I think Vanford lived from 2020 to 2024, and this is the brand new iteration. So some step ups in technology, performance. As Shimano does, they trickle the
Trickle down,
technology down from pretty much Stella through
Right.
their spinning reel lineup. So great little spinning reels here. Anything to add to that?
My understanding is that 4 Stella technologies trickled down that had not come down previously. That stuff never means much to me until I get my hands on them. The reel feels lighter in the hand, and it is way smoother. And it's one of those things where there was nothing wrong with Vanford. I really like Vanford, but I picked up the new Vanford and went, oh,
Yeah.
I see the difference. A significant change in the entire feel of the reel, how it fishes. It's insanely smooth. I really, really like the new Vanford.
Yeah, I agree. You pick it up. I don't think it is much lighter. It might be like a little bit lighter, but it feels a lot lighter and extremely smooth. And then this guy right here, SLX XT. I think they did a few different upgrades to it, but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, price point stays the same, right?
Price point is the same or very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a very affordable but tournament ready platform here.
Right.
It's kind of standard bait caster.
I think Tim's right. A few technologies did trickle down from higher price point reels into this one. I believe Silent Tune is
Silent
one of them.
Tune.
And
That's
you can
exactly
feel,
right.
You can
Yep.
feel
And
it. It's smoother.
And same thing with that Bamford, you know, those higher end technologies making it down into their lower price point reels. And so you're getting a lot of the stuff that was in a previous Stella, and now what's the Bamford's 225 or 250 or something like that? Something in that price range. It's not a Stella price.
Sure.
So you're getting
That
insane
Bamford right there
performance.
is so much higher end than the high end reels when we
Years
were all
ago,
coming
right.
up.
Yeah,
It's
for sure,
crazy.
right.
Yeah.
It's amazing how different they are.
And you know what, Matt? I'm with you. I'm the same way. Like, they tell me what the technologies are, and I don't really internalize it until I get out on the water, and I'm like, oh wow,
I get it. Yeah.
Right.
That's what micro module does, or
Right.
whatever it is. So totally with you on the practicality there. They've also got some rods, new iteration of the Poison Adrena. Now we've got a great deal on the Poison Adrena on the clearance page as well,
The old
on
ones?
the old models.
And those are the old ones. There was nothing wrong with those. Those are some of my favorite
Right.
rods to fish. So
Yeah, you guys used
I don't
a
know.
few.
Yeah, I don't know what your
Yes.
sale is, but if you can scoop them up at a discounted price, go for it.
Yeah, yeah.
The big thing with Poison Adrena to me, you know how much we love X Pride, right? Fanatical about X Pride. But when you would make that next jump to Poison Adrena, my only thing there was that not all of the actions carried over. So like if you bought a model in X Pride or you were used to it and you thought, I'm gonna get a higher end rod, and you jumped to Poison Adrena, it wasn't necessarily the exact same. Poison Adrena rods had a little bit more of like the JDM feel to them, not just in feel, but in action. And for a lot of things, that's great, but if you had a favorite model, it didn't necessarily carry
Translate.
over.
And usually that means that there's the backbones are not
They're not the same.
as profound, and they're a
Yes.
little bit more parabolic of an action when you go to that more JDM kind of action.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. These Poison Adrenas, there are some models in here, having just played with them, some of them have that JDM vibe. Some of them are very Americanized, for lack of a better term.
Right.
I really, really like them.
Well, we're Americans, so.
So yeah,
that
exactly.
works
That's
out
why we
nicely,
like them.
Yeah.
Well, the heavy action jig stick with a backbone on it.
The
It's
first
super
one,
light.
hold those for me. First one that jumps out is the 7.4. Like this is a true big bait rod. Now not like going out and throwing a slide swimmer big bait, but throwing an S-waver, throwing a 6-inch mag draft, throwing a flutter spoon. Those you just took his head off, but it's all good.
I was trying to.
Yeah, that exactly.
They're
That's
new-
a perfect
they're new.
example.
That is a
Yes.
perfect
And we'll use the close shot. They won't
Yeah.
even know.
Is he bleeding?
Not yet. We'll get him. We'll get him.
Thanks, guys.
So a true big bait power fishing type rod, and this one is more of a regular action. So loads deeper into the blank. That's why you're able to throw bigger baits with treble hooks on that rod. The BFS rod is amazing, like true high-end BFS, and then that forward-facing rod, the BFS rod is sweet. And there's several forward-facing rods. That one, the heavier one, is my personal favorite. I like that a little bit stouter. I like leaning on largemouth when I'm strolling, right? Sticking big largemouth in the summertime. Whole different ball game in terms of sensitivity, and I feel like this generation falls way more in line with like a true step Corrado Zodius X Pride on a
Adrena, yeah.
I really like it.
Yeah, really cool. Cosmetics are gorgeous.
They're beautiful.
They did a
Awesome.
great job with those.
One other thing is these crazy handles. Whoa, still got the tip.
Was
I
a
mean,
nice
durable
rod.
as can be. So they're
Warranty.
true hollow handles. The monocoque handles are completely hollow, which is how they transmit sensitivity down blank. And they left the bottoms of these open so you can tell that they actually are completely hollow. It's pretty wild.
Really cool. Yeah, so that's kind of the wrap up for Shimano. Poison Adrena, gorgeous SLX XT, awesome, and a brand new Vanford that I
Right.
know everybody's going to be excited about,
Oh,
given
yeah.
that it's the year of the spinning rod, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, up next we got St. Croix. We got some more rods. So they're launching a couple of different models. I don't know if we have, what do we have here, Matt?
Black
Black
bass.
bass.
Go
Black
for it. You
bass.
did a great job
Yes.
last. Go for it. He's got the rod stuff down.
Black bass. Well, I kind of geek out on this stuff. I really do.
I couldn't tell.
You couldn't
Yeah,
tell. I know.
no.
I know. It's a new thing for me. The black bass rods. I mean, Bass X is awesome, right? As a budget friendly option. Mojo Bass is amazing, but when Mojo Bass relaunched with the Trigon handles, the price went up with that technology, and that left a void that Black Bass seems to have landed right in. I really like those rods. I think they're super solid at their price point. These are true round handles instead of the Trigon, which is more of the triangular shaped handles. For somebody that wants that mid-priced, familiar action, because St. Croix is another one of those families where actions carry across all of them, right? Like if you like the 7.4 heavy, which I do, you can throw it from the least expensive to the highest end, and the action translates through. And I feel like these Black Bass rods, the actions translated extremely well. They're not super slow. You know, St. Croix's actions tend to be a little bit slower than some of the other brands, which I love for like jig fishing, anything with the treble hook.
Right.
Sometimes when you get to the lowest price points from any brand, they get even slower action, and these aren't that at all. These are true actions, and I really like them.
And speaking of actions, St. Croix's always had just a huge range of models in their lineup, and that one is no different. I remember opening up the website to set those up, and I don't know how many SKUs it is, but it's got to be close to 20 to 30 SKUs between casting and spinning.
It's crazy.
So it's deep in the lineup.
Yeah,
They all want it's in there.
It's St. Croix is a bunch of fishermen that can't, like, everyone's got their model that they,
Technique
I gotta have this
specific,
one.
yeah.
I need a 7.2. Well, I want a 7.1. Well, I want a 7.4, and they make them all, which for me is a,
It's
guy
great.
who's very specific about lengths and actions. Gotta have it. So
Yep.
really cool. They're also launching, that was the Black Bass. They're also launching GXR Bass and an upgrade, the new grasp handle 2.0, which is interchangeable. It's really cool. We have a full length rundown of all that stuff posting day one of Icast on the site, so that'll be really cool. Alphabetical order, we're on Y, so we're almost done.
We're there.
Yamamoto. Yamamoto has something I'm sure you're going to be excited about here. Let's talk about the little craw first. This is the new covert craw.
Look at that little guy. So a little cobra craw, I mean, was it 2 inch, 2.5 inch? The tiny little creature bait. Have you guys got to use this?
I haven't yet, but it's going to play right there in with that.
I mean, it's the same size as,
Right.
little missile micro D-bomb, but
Yep.
I mean, tiny little bait that you guys can throw in your Texas rig, BFS stuff, jig trailer, do all kinds of stuff with it.
You take one look at it, you can tell just from the mass that's in the claws that even though it's tiny, you're going to get a lot of movement out of it. And I think that's something that the resurgence of bait finesse has really helped with across the board, because a lot of companies already had little micro baits, right? Since we were kids, there's lots of little micro baits, but a lot of them they're kind of junky. Like they're not that effective. When you get small, they don't really work.
Yeah, the action doesn't translate.
Now that there's been this resurgence of these tiny baits, I mean, companies are taking it seriously. They take the time to not just have profile, but to have action as well. And obviously that makes a huge difference. I think that's a neat bait. And the other thing is, it's got a lot of mass to it for being a tiny bait. It's going to
It's
cast
pretty heavy.
extremely well.
Yeah, and then another thing is obviously you get the Yamamoto colors, right?
I was going to say, everyone's got a Yamamoto color that's
they
near
like,
and
the
dear to
number
their
that
heart.
they like.
Yeah.
I don't know how many colors you guys are bringing
297,
in,
310, 305, 3...
The California Central Valley guys all know the Senko color numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that funny?
It's a customer
What is with
service
that?
nightmare.
I don't know.
I didn't know they make anything but green pumpkin black flake myself, but apparently they do.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a 297 guy.
Yep.
297, fair enough. Shocker, we have a minnow for a jig head.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm not.
You don't say.
It's the scope.
Bigger scope shad?
The scope shad.
Well, it's not a new bait. This one came out last year, Icast. This is
so.
last year Icast. Now we just got new sizes.
Yep.
So new size. So just adding to that lineup, get a little bit bigger.
That thing is
option.
beefy for the
It
length.
is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
And
plastic there.
Everything Yamamoto's heavy.
Right.
Compared to other brands across the market. Even the stuff they make out of that floater material. I don't know what they're doing to it, but it's still denser and heavier than a lot of the other plastics.
Right. Yeah. Really cool. New size in that scope shad. X.
On to X.
X-Zone.
X Zone.
X-Zone.
Oh,
What's
man,
going
there's
on
a bunch
here?
of stuff here. X-Zone is launching an entire new series. Finesse. Bait finesse or spinning rod, but bait finesse specifically, they're launching their Stealth Finesse series. Within that series, they've got 4 completely different profiles, and then they've got tube heads as well. Want to just grab a couple and we'll just run? Because if I start going, this will go for half an hour.
No, I've been extremely impressed with X Zone the last couple of years. I don't know if you guys have seen like an explosion of like their popularity of just more people fishing their stuff, but we tell people all the time. We walked into the class a couple of years ago and they were right at the front door with a tank and all their baits were there and just I got to see in person how they work. So extremely excited about the X Zone stuff. I've caught a ton of fish on their previous products. This whole downsized stuff looks awesome. You do the talking, I'll hold up the baits.
Deal. All right, first one is their stealth creature. Here, you can hold that up. This is going to be the one I held up. Man, I was on it. Bait finesse, downsized, a true creature bait that has full action.
Right.
That was needed. I really like that bait. It'll take up to like a small 1/0 or 2, yeah, right down the line it goes. It'll take a 2/0 if you had to, but it'll also take a size 1. It'll take a size 2. 1/16 ounce weight is perfect. Texas rigging that thing. Carolina rigging that thing when fish are pressured.
Don't talk about that.
It's a true downsized creature. That thing is amazing. Next one, Stealth Craw.
Jeez.
Staying with that whole concept, tiny little craw bait. I have actually got to play with that one quite a bit, and I love the movement on it. I like how it flows in the water. More than that, I really like how fish have responded to that thing. That thing has been amazing. It is just one of those baits that has that special something that fish just freak out on. Next one is their little Stealth Minnow, which they already have a super popular drop shot bait. Now they've got it in that smaller size range. I mean, that thing is awesome. Send that one down the line.
Yep.
That is such a cool little bait. And then the last one, I don't know if it's the one I'm most excited about or not.
It's the one I'm most excited about.
I'm pretty stoked on the creature too.
The creature's pretty good, yeah.
But a 2.25 inch stealth tube.
And
the head.
Tube head.
yes.
And specifically this color. Like if you're a northern guy, if you're a Great Lakes guy, the sand colored tubes are the deal. And that thing wrecks shop. They also did tube heads, which are very, very unique. That tube head, super short shanked, but stout. So you can set it on bait finesse tackle. You can also be on Clear Lake, needing a downsized profile, get bit by a 7-pound largemouth and smoke them on 12-pound, and you're good. I mean, it is way, way stout, but it's tiny. It fits in that little 2.25 and just about every other popular little tube out there.
Tube, right.
I mean, it's the perfect size in there,
Super cute.
right?
That's a nice little bait.
Send that down the
That's
line.
a little
Yeah.
cutie.
And then the last thing with that head is that, I mean, there's a million tube heads out there, right? Not a lot that fit these little guys, but they also cut all these grooves in this thing so that a lot of people scent their tubes,
bait fuel
not
or-
just for scent, but you shoot your bait fuel in there or whatever else. You need to lube to get that head in there, and you slide that thing in there, but all the little grooves in the head help keep a bunch of that scent inside the tube longer, which I think is just added bonus. They did a really good job.
Really well thought out.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
super snack sized. I
This
think
is-
this caused a lot of
This is one
excitement.
that, when it was in the office,
Yeah,
we were
in
like,
the office.
oh yeah, look at that thing. You know, we see a lot of baits, and
Right.
it's hard to get some of the guys in the office fired up about something. And this was one that for sure everyone was pretty pumped on. I can't
It's got a
wait to try
gaff
those
on it
out.
too. It's so excited about all those. I like the creature bait, just a small, like you said, Carolina rig. Really impressed with this whole
Well,
line.
craw, the minnow. So they got kind of the whole line. Everything you need: tubes, craws,
Drop shot
minnows. Got all the bases covered for the new finesse lineup. It's really cool from X Zone.
So we have. I'm going to cut you off unless this
All
is
good.
gold.
No,
Is
you're
it gold?
good. No, you're good. You're
All
good.
right.
Go for it.
We have done the ABCs
No.
of ICAST.
No, we got
I
one more
see
letter.
some baits
Oh,
here.
all the way up.
We did do A, B, and
Z.
C.
to Z.
Yes.
So last but not least, we got Z-Man.
All right.
What's going on with Z-Man?
Quite a few things, but the two that
Keep it short.
All right. You go ahead. You go ahead first.
Tungsten Evo, right? Last year they released the new Evo,
Right.
the Elite, but now they have it in a tungsten head. A couple things, obviously smaller profile, but what we've noticed is a lot more vibration. Just having that more dense material, a lot more vibration, a lot more sound. But man, those Evo, those chatterbaits having the painted blades, all that has really. I mean, I caught a bunch of fish this last year on just the traditional one, but excited about that. And what do you got?
Draft shads. We've talked about a lot of minnows today. We've talked about a handful that stand out from the crowd. The graph shads is one that absolutely stands out. This bait is very different. Comes in 3 weights. All 3 weights have the exact same size head because it's designed to pair with their plastic on it. So they use different materials to maintain the exact size. It's a line through. So you go through the head, tie to the belly. That causes the bait to be dead stable in the water. I mean, that thing is sitting upright no matter what. Now, this is not a bait that I'm getting tons of rolling action out of. This is a bait that I'm using to get fish to eat that don't want to eat. I have been impressed. So I had a buddy that had one of these. I didn't even know what it was, but I caught a pile of fish on it and then saw the graph shads and was like, that's the bait.
Yeah.
So I've blasted them on this already, just having no idea what I was fishing with. What I found so interesting is that there's so many baits that you're shaking hard, right? And those fish just come get them. That is not where this bait stood out for me. For me, this bait stood out when that wasn't working and you get super subtle with it, like barely moving it, and it converts fish that have already said no. Like I've already fished for them. It's not happening. They're not in the mood. I follow back up and there's a big one.
Yeah, the other added bonus too is Elastec, right? You don't have to go through a ton of baits. Sure. It comes with a rigged bait. It comes with a spare.
Probably take a while to work through those.
To get through the 2. And then last but not least, the Shadtron comes in 2 sizes. I haven't had a chance. I don't think either of us had a chance to fish these yet. But the Molotron came out last year, and we fished that a ton. Got some big reds on it, some big saltwater species. But excited about that swim bait right there.
That jig hook comes out, so that's a line through bait too. Right. Through the nose, tie to the jig hook, slide it down inside the bait, but it stays totally stable inside there. I think that is a super cool design.
Right.
And we're getting more shad colors now.
Right.
You know, freshwater colors really geared for.
The Molotron is amazing. Like I've got some big largemouth on it, but the colors aren't perfect. And now your true shad profile.
Yep.
That is super. I'm really excited to fish that thing and see exactly what it does in the water. Not having fished it on paper, it looks great.
Right. You're gonna order them a custom line in Clear Lake Hitch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you just need to get 7,000s for them to pour them.
Oh yeah. I also want to mention before we wrap up that we do have just a ton of exclusives with Z-Man. Between Brian, who handles Z-Man for Tackle Warehouse,
and
myself. What's up?
Oh yeah.
Drop kickers.
Dude, that bait's smash.
The chatter shads too. New chatterbait trailer.
Oh, I'm blowing it.
It's all right.
Yeah, we
It's
still
all
had a
good.
couple.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how we missed something.
Let me finish
Let
that.
me finish your
You're good.
spiel. Finish your spiel. Sorry.
We have all kinds of cool stuff. We have the brand new turd fatties, right? So a tiny little TRD size fatties worm, which is one of my favorites. We have all kinds of scented baits, exclusive colors, including in the jackhammer.
The baddest jackhammer color ever.
Yeah. So we got lots of cool stuff, but I guess we weren't done. So.
No, well, speaking of chatterbaits and jackhammers, hey, you have the list in front of you.
I
You
know,
saw it.
I'm blowing it.
All right, there's also the Z-Man Chatter Shad coming out. So a little bit different take on the Chatter Spike. So just a little bit different. That's got that flat tail on it. You're getting more of that shad baitfish profile. Push a little bit more water. I think it was something that everyone wanted when the Chatter Spike came out. Wanted that fin on the back. And then another, this one's TW exclusive for a while. The Drop Kicker's been out.
Is that a TW exclusive? You guys are genius.
Are you sure?
I thought it was.
Either way, that's a
I
killer
thought that's
bait.
what
If
Brian
you
told
are, that
me.
is a killer bait.
That's a killer little swim bait too.
I could be lying.
I think you're lying.
I thought Brian told me it was exclusive for like a few months or something.
Maybe.
Look at that little tail on there.
We'll have to edit it in.
Yeah, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
If it is cool, if it's not, it's still cool.
Either way, amazing drop shot bait.
Yeah.
Amazing little swim
Swim
bait
bait,
as
yeah.
well. And tiny baits that have that extra something. This bait smashes as a minnow bait too. Absolutely smashes.
Oh yeah. Love it.
So that wraps it up.
That's the rundown.
There is a random bait laying over here.
Oh, what is that?
That one is from, what's the actual name of this bait?
That's snag proof. It's
snag proof.
Zoake?
Zoo-wake.
Zoo wake.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
passed it.
This crazy looking bait does not look like much, but does anyone remember the wiggle wog?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
You had to fish it in the snag proof open.
Dude, I grew up on the California Delta. The wiggle wog, as wonky as that thing looked and as silly as it looked in the water, wrecked shop. That was one of my babies. I still have a box of wiggle wogs. Walking by this thing, doing the double take. I haven't thrown it in the water yet, but I know where it came from. I will be stocking up on that bait. Crazy looking, but it's essentially, if it's anything like the wiggle wog, it's a surface swim bait that you can throw through anything.
Right.
Really cool.
Kind of plays in that whole toad category.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some now the new snag proof colors, the way they do their plastic now, all the colors are just really cool.
Right.
Much more refined than they used to be.
Right.
Oh, 100%.
Great hook, tons of bite. Gonna put them in the boat. Really cool.
Now
Did
can
we
wrap
cover
it up?
everything?
Dude,
All right.
that's a
That
pile.
was a long one.
I think we got it.
I guess we want to thank everyone for sticking
Yeah.
in here and watching the whole rundown with us. This is the Tackle Warehouse and Tactical Bassin Icast 2024 first look rundown, whatever we want to call it. But all this stuff available for pre-order right now on the website. Some of the stuff's available to buy right now. But if you want to check out any of this gear, you can head on over to tacklewarehouse.com. Thanks for watching.
See you guys.